good afternoon, and welcome to the Sunset Safari. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon, Craig is on camera with me, and we're coming to you live from the beautifully sunny Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. So remember, because this is a live safari, that means that you can send through your questions, and you can do that on hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Alternatively, you can send them through at the YouTube comments stream. Now, a very warm welcome, of course, given that it is for us a Saturday afternoon. For some of you, it's a Saturday morning. For some of you, it's quite late on a Saturday night, in which case you should probably go to bed. But either way, for a very warm welcome to the Nat Geo kids joining us today. Now remember, get your parents to send through their questions at natgeokids@wildearth.tv. So you can send through your questions in that way. We'd love to hear from you. This is a live wildlife show. We'll be joined a little bit later by our team in the Masai Mara as well. So not one country, but two African countries with a plethora of wildlife that both places have to offer. So our plans for the afternoon: I am going to go look for some ellies, because this morning, for those of you that missed it, we had some truly spectacular elephant sightings. Really, really lovely. It was cold, it was drizzly. That's why I said it's beautiful and sunny now. It was cold and drizzly, so the ellies were loving it. Now that it's hot, I'm hoping maybe some of them will visit some of the water holes, have a bit of a splish-splash around. Tristan's heading out to follow up on Tlalamba and the reports of another leopard that went to join her after the sunrise safari. So there's lots of reasons to keep on watching. Of course, as it gets dark and a little bit cooler, we will then do other things, like perhaps go and visit the hyena den. So plenty to look forward to. So what you'll notice I'm doing every now and again is just sticking my head out over the side of the car. That, of course, is because I am searching for the odd track. We got a report last night of a leopard moving onto Djuma, and it sounds like it was Tingana, so that's the dominant male in this area. But there's always the possibility that Hukumuri, his rival to the west, might be moving around here. I think that's who we're going to look for afterwards. I'm going to go check the water holes, have a look around, and then from there we'll carry on in a different direction. Let's just go see what's happening at Treehouse Dam. It's where all the ellies were. There's a couple of, if they're not here, there's a couple of water holes along the road a bit further to the east of us where we might find them. And of course, we're searching for everything else in between. It's rapidly approaching the point where most of the migratory bird species are going to be up and leaving us, abandoning us as we enter into our dry season. We're moving off to different places to go off in search of food. So I think we'll make a point of looking at the woodland kingfishers today, if we find any, because they're going to be going, some cuckoos, and anything else we happen to come across. All right, there's nothing at Treehouse this afternoon, so while we search on for other things, or if you pop across to Tristan, who is just dying to say good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and hopefully Jamie will find her ellies. I know she's just checked Treehouse and they're not there, but I'm sure there'll be somewhere around the area. As she mentioned, my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Sebastian this afternoon. It's nice to have Sebastian back. I haven't been with Seb for quite some time, so it's nice to have him on the vehicle. He always brings lots of good luck, and hopefully he's going to bring us leopard luck. As Jamie mentioned, we're looking for leopard, and we found a leopard, but not the leopard that we were hoping to find. This is a different type of leopard. The leopard that we were looking for is the mammal leopard. That's a cat and got claws and teeth, and this is the reptilian leopard. So this is called a leopard tortoise. This is a very big female leopard tortoise, and we know that because they get much larger than what the males do. It's not the most accurate way of telling you whether they're a boy or a girl. Generally, you'd have to look underneath the shell to be able to see if it's a boy or a girl. But when they get really big like this, then you pretty much know that it is a female. Now, you can see why she has the sort of shell that she's got with the coloration that she has. She's got little bits of kind of creams and blacks in it, and that just helps for her to be able to camouflage camouflage. Now, what does camouflage mean? Basically, that means an animal's ability to blend into its environment. So it's able to kind of sit down, and you can see there now, if you were driving past, you would never even know that there's a tortoise that is sitting in that little bit of grass. So that broken pattern really works well for camouflage and for the ability to hide away. Now, you'd think, why would a tortoise need to hide away? Well, there's lots of predators out here. So not only, well, she's got a shell, obviously, that's going to protect her, but that only goes so far. There's certain types of birds out here.
What's moving there? Oh, it's a caterpillar.
Is there a caterpillar that you've spotted as well?
Yeah, that was going down that...
Going down that thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well spotted. Well spotted, Seb. Becky, you say you just love these tortoises. They are adorable. They are adorable creatures. I also like them. I think they're classic to watch as they walk around, and it's almost like they're little tanks that 4x4 their way around this area. So I always enjoy sort of spending some time with them. They also get very, very old, and so you can imagine all the things that this tortoise has seen. Now, I think it's a bit hot in the sun. That's why it's going to try and move rather into the shade. But I was saying they have predators. They have a bird predator called a ground hornbill, which is a very big bird. Almost looks like it comes out of the dinosaur era. It's got a red face and black wings, and they'll hunt them. And then the other thing that they have to be very careful of is things like hyenas. Now, hyenas have very strong jaws, and they're actually able to break those shells. So camouflage is important for that reason. Now, you can see it's busy feeding. A lot of people often ask, what do tortoises eat? And there you go. You can see that they are grass eaters for the most part. They'll go after all kinds of sort of forbs and grasses and vegetation that they can eat. Rosalind, are leopard tortoises endangered? In this particular area, no. They're pretty common and are really not something that needs to be worried about within the game reserves. Outside of that, probably yes. They have, a lot of them have numbers have decreased, and generally because when people start to inhabit areas, they basically remove any habitat for this animal to survive. So people generally cut their lawns, or they don't have gardens that are in sort of habitat for a tortoise, and so the numbers then die off. So some people, for some reason, are not very well scared of tortoises, and they then kill them and all kinds of other things. So outside of the game reserves, their numbers have declined drastically, but inside areas that are wilderness and bush areas, no, their numbers are pretty strong and pretty healthy at this stage. You can see she's just kind of looking at us through the bush. You can just see her eye that is poking out through there. Very, very cool to see. Right, we're going to leave her to carry on her day and to feed off her lovely green grass. In the meantime, though, I'm going to send you across to Jamie, who, well, she's got a creature that feeds off something that you and I would think would be very, very, very disgusting.
Tristan's going to leave and carry on, and I'm honestly thinking at this point that this dung beetle should probably do the same. Though it might be a Saturday for most of us, which means, of course, a nice day of relaxation, but that doesn't apply out here. There's no such thing as a weekend, especially if you are an industrious dung beetle. This particular dung beetle is not the smartest one in the group. That ball over there that it has created has been made from a pile of elephant dung, from the elephants that we saw this morning, and this dung beetle is determined to push it up over the rise of the road, and every time he gets to round about there, he loses control. Are we going to do it again? Is he going to make it? Is he going to make it? Oh, I think he's made it. Is he? No? Oh, he hasn't come tumbling back out again. Bravo to the hard-working dung beetle, and there's actually about 3 of them round here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and move. There's another one over there. A little bit further. There's one further at the top of your screen there, Craig. That was where the second one was. Oh, no, you got it there. Sorry, I was looking at a different one. Craig using his sharp eyesight to spot the dung beetle that we were looking at. So what the dung beetle have done is they've found themselves a nice fresh old pile of dung, and they have compacted it into a ball. And this particular species of dung beetle is one that creates the dung, but these chaps are very, very driven in the way that they approach life, and what they do is they roll up a pile of dung, and they'll search for a female, and she'll then attach herself to the dung ball. And then they will lay the egg in the center of the dung ball, and they'll bury it so that when their babies hatch, they have a suitable source of food. But that also means finding a good place to dig down, somewhere safe, because dung beetle babies, or dung beetle larvae, are a very attractive meal for a lot of different types of animals. So they've got to choose somewhere suitable where they can actually keep it safe. Sometimes, however, they just do it as a matter of course in order to have a bit of a food supply as well. So none of these dung balls have got more than one dung beetle attached to them. Oh, he's going to try again. Up the hill. It's not a very round dung ball, that one. Slightly off kilter. Gonna make it. It's gonna make it. Bravo. He's done it. All three of our dung beetles have been successful. I'm going to move forward to the one over there. And just be careful that I'm not going to squash somebody else's hard work. Oh, no, he didn't. He just came tumbling out again. The third one has rolled its way out. It's a very steep road here. I wanted to see. No, I think he's probably going to be our best bet. We'll have to stay here for now. There you go. This is a terrible place to try get it over the mound. Sinak, you say that you've never seen dung beetle larvae. Fair enough. You know, we don't actually often seek to uncover them because, of course, they're right in the process of getting as much energy as possible in a protected environment before it's time for them to undergo the metamorphosis into an adult. So if we were to go and dig out dung balls and we were to break them open, we'd expose the larvae. They're then exposed. They can't sort of glue the dung ball back together all that well. So although you do occasionally find dung beetle larvae in big piles of dung, we often don't actually show them to you. So that's fair enough. You actually probably haven't. So what they look like is a big grub, is probably the best way I can describe it. A sort of palish coloured, almost white, almost a little bit translucent, I guess. A bit of a translucent effect to them. And they're sort of milky white in colour and actually quite disgusting looking if you don't like grubs or you don't like bugs, that sort of thing. Now that's what a dung beetle larvae looks like. They're massive. They're really, really large. Go, buddy. You could do it. Magic Dragon Wizard wants to know if I have any idea how deep they bury the dung ball. It does vary. It depends very much on the type of soil content of where they are. You know, has it rained recently? Is the soil nice and soft? Is it a nice protected area? Do they encounter a tree root? But the ones that I've seen dig down, you can usually gauge the depth given the amount of soil that they actually sort of... Oh, he's out again. It's a silly place to try go up the hill. Come on. Let's go. You could do it. What was I going to say? Oh, it's probably about double the depth, or double the sort of the... What's the word I'm looking for? Diameter of the dung ball itself. Around about 5 inches down would be quite deep. How big is that? I'm trying to work it out. My brain doesn't work in inches. Yeah, 5, 6 inches down would be about as deep as I've seen them dig down. I'm sure that they dig deeper under ideal circumstances. Obviously, the deeper it is, the better. And of course, as they're rolling it around like this, the layer of soil does a couple of things. One is to help to secure the dung and keep the shape of the dung ball. It helps to hide the smell or mask the smell as well. Oh no, now you've really gone to a silly place. Can just see the movement of his legs at the back as he scrabbles frantically to try and push out and under the stick. It's not working terribly well. Okay, we're going to go and leave these poor dung beetles and go in search of their suppliers. And speaking of supplies, it sounds as though Tlalamba's supplies have been exhausted.
I'm sure those dung beetles were absolutely fascinating. Now, we're still looking for our leopard. Unfortunately, the leopard that we were looking for, she had a kill. And that was a small little duiker that she managed to kill. And it seems like her kill is now finished and that she's no longer here. What I heard, though, was that her mother arrived here. And her mother is a much older leopardess. She's much bigger, and so probably what's happened is between the two of them, they've managed to finish everything, and that's why there's no sign of them at the moment. So what we're doing is we're just driving. Just ahead of us here is a nice place where there's water, and water, when for a leopard after it's eaten, is a vital thing for them to have, and they often go and lie near water after a kill. So we're going to go and see if they maybe have just left that kill and are now going towards the water itself to be able to get themselves a little bit of kind of hydration as well as a bit of shade. So as we're going, though, we're just scanning because these leopards, it's still quite warm. They essentially will be anywhere where there's a bit of shade at the moment. So just trying to look in all the shade. It's difficult, though, because at the moment it's so thick that a leopard can be right next to you and you wouldn't even know it's there. So we're just trying to have a little bit of a look and see whether or not they've come this way. This is probably the closest water that there is to where they managed to, where that little female managed to bring down that kill. And so I would think that this is where she would have headed. As for her mom, I'm not sure if her mom will still be here. Her mom might have moved off and carried on and tried to go and find more food. There really wasn't much left this morning, and so if mom did finish it, she'll still be probably quite hungry. But where we're looking is in spots like this. You can see there's a bit of water next to me, and then there's some shade. Now those are areas where a leopard would love to lie. They get into this long grass and they camouflage incredibly well in this area, and they can hide out, and if anything else comes, like let's say a little duiker or an antelope, like an impala, comes and has a drink, they can then surprise them from there. It's also much cooler in those shady spots. So we'll just have a little look around here. I'm sure we can eventually find them. I don't think she would have gone too far with a full belly, unless, of course, her mom already made a kill and has now taken her back to wherever that kill could be. So we're going to have a little look around and just double check. I don't see any tracks yet, so I'm sure she's here somewhere. Jackie, in all likelihood, Thandi probably would have taken most of the kill that was left because little Kalamba had fed so well already and Thandi hadn't. Well, we suspect that she hadn't. I mean, I didn't see her, so I don't know what she looked like. So I suspect that Thandi would have taken most of it that was left and fed off it, which is quite ironic if you think about it, because it's almost like mom is now kind of feeding off daughter, not the other way around like it should be. But that's what I would suspect has happened, is that Thandi kind of cleaned up the last of what there was and then kind of moved off potentially, or the two of them, she already has another kill and she's then found her daughter, and the two of them have now kind of moved along to go and sort of see if they can get back to that kill. So that's probably what's happened. Now, there's a few little water points here. The last one is just ahead, so I just want to double check the last one before we go back to where the original kill was and see if I can maybe just find some tracks there that indicate where they might have walked to, because footprints are the easiest way to find a leopard, and because where she killed, a few vehicles have driven there, there's some nice places where the ground has been driven over, and therefore I can see if they've been walking there. Their tracks will show quite nicely on an area like that. So it looks like some ellies were here during the course of today. They've walked on this pathway. No, sorry, Faith, the people are shouting on the radio. You need to just repeat that for me. I didn't get that. I just got Becky. I didn't get the rest. Becky, if Kalamba has dispersed, would Thandi fight with her like she did with Shongile? So those of you who don't know who Shongile is, she was a young leopard that was the sister of Hosana, and Thandi had a big fight with her over basically territory. And in fact, Seb was with me during that when we watched that. Seems like a long time ago. Hey, Seb. And so, no, I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. Because the mother-daughter relationship at this stage is still probably there. Thandi doesn't have a new litter, or at least not as far as we know. And that means that in all likelihood, she's still very tolerant. She also probably doesn't see little Tlalamba as a threat. Tlalamba is too small at this stage to be really kind of deemed to be any sort of threat to her mom. And so I don't think Thandi would do the same thing at all. Remember, Shongile wasn't Thandi's offspring. Shongile was from another female. And so that's probably why you find that she was so much more aggressive to Shongile than she would be, even to Tlalamba in 2 years' time, when Tlalamba is really starting to push for territory. Also, Thandi's starting to get older. And often with these females, they'll give a little section of their territory to their daughters. So I don't think she'll be too kind of grumpy at all. I don't see any sign of these two. I don't see any tracks either. I want to just go to the road itself, because this kill wasn't far from the road, and just double check on the road that there isn't any sign of them maybe walking or crossing the road. There's another water point not too far from here on the other side that they might have also decided to use. But there's so many thickets here that she could hide in. It's going to be very tricky to find her. So hopefully we'll get lucky at some point and we'll be able to kind of work out where she actually is. Good. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to Jamie, who, as I was alluding to, tracks help us a lot, and she seems to have some tracks of her own that she wants to show you.
It may well be tricky for Tristan to find Thandi and Tlalamba, but Tingana might make it a little bit easier. Now, there's fresh tracks of a male leopard coming south along Weaver's Nest Road. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's kind of a road that runs smack through the middle of Djuma, but further on the western side. And it is a very popular highway with leopards like Tingana. He likes to use that route. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go and check Twin Dams quickly. They're fresh. They really are fresh. They're from sometime this morning. And it's a possibility that they crossed south into Little Gowrie. But I wanted to go to Twin Dams anyway because I wanted to see if there were any ellies there. So we'll head across in that direction. So we're saying all these names and it gets very confusing for those of you that have never watched our safaris before. Thandi's the queen, her daughter is Tlalamba, and Tingana is the big male. Oh, there's a question I've never thought about before, and it's a really good one. Jenny wants to know why it is totally related to leopards, why it is that we never see heron chicks at the dam. Have we ever put a heron chick on camera? Craig, have you ever filmed a heron chick? I've certainly never put them live. Why don't we? Ow. I'm so busy thinking about the answer to your question that I've just driven into a stick that whacked me on the ankle. Why have we never filmed heron chicks? You'd think we'd at least get a sub-adult. I'm not a sub-adult, a juvenile. One that's sort of close to adulthood but hasn't got its full adult plumage yet. Do you know, I've got absolutely no idea why we've never seen them. They obviously keep them very secret. And they obviously secret them, the little ones away in things like reeds. And we probably don't necessarily have the ideal breeding area for herons. But you would have thought with the amount of time that we spend out here, it must be one of the few bird species that we, obviously large bird species that live out in the open, that we haven't seen the little ones for. I wonder if Tristan has. Because I don't think he has. No, we haven't seen any of, we've never seen them. Tristan hasn't, I haven't. It's possible that they tend to breed further towards the rivers. And we don't have any major river systems. But I'm a bit perplexed by that question. It's actually a really good one, because I don't know the answer to it. We're going to struggle with signal for a little bit, but don't worry, Faith. I'm going to stay where there should be good signal. We might just have a bit of a dip coming up, and then we should be okay. Otherwise, what we need to do, and what I'm avoiding, is go on to the southern boundary of Djuma, which I don't like to drive on because it's bumpy and it's busy. And I prefer to avoid it if I can. Interesting. I'm very perplexed by the question of the herons. Let's go have a look and see if there's any water birds, since we're discussing water birds. Let's go look for baby herons, although we're more likely to see baby geese. So this is twin dams, which means that the Egyptian geese here are the twigs. The twin dams Egyptian geese. Let's see what we've got here. So we're reaching the end of the breeding season for a lot of the different bird species. So James, of course, always casting aspersions on the skills of the Egyptian geese as parents in around the different water sources. The Buffelshoek Dam geese never had much luck. And the Twin Dams geese, last time I was here, did have babies, and it looks like they're big now, because I can actually see some slowly moving back towards. Sorry, Craig, I got distracted by the Game Drive radio. In the shadows, in the shade, but it's fine. They might move down towards their adult, because it's a bit tricky to film where they are. I've got a funny feeling there's a leopard somewhere here looking at us. He loves this spot. That's, of course, if he wasn't responsible for stealing Tlalumba's kill, which is also possible. So apparently we're getting you're able to hear some nice sounds of the afternoon. And birds all chirping away. You're going to be getting a lot of vehicle ambient shortly as well. I'm sorry, I'm just listening to the Game Drive vehicles. Sorry, just give me 1 second. We just have to have a conversation so we can all work together to look for the animals. Oh, those are definitely male tracks there, but there might be some older female ones around. I've checked from Weaver's Nest to Twin along the fire break. Nothing coming out there. Okay, copy. I'm gonna take Gari Main all the way to Shabam. Just check for crossing there. Sorry, guys. I'm just focusing on talking to the other guides out here, just so that we can coordinate our search. So while I figure out exactly which way we're going to go, let's go across to Tristan, who is equally involved in this search for spotted cats.
Well, good luck, Jamie. I think what's happened here is this adult female Tundi has come in and finished up everything, and the two of them have then left. Whether they've gone together is the next question, but definitely they have left. It sounds like one of the other guys has got tracks for a female leopard going away from where we are now and heading towards where Jamie is, and so I wonder if that's not Tundi that's kind of gone that way, and maybe little Tlalumba is still somewhere in this general vicinity. But let's see, we're going to have to try and just double check and try and check tracks, which is quite tricky at the moment because this particular road that we're on is incredibly hard. It's not an easy road to see tracks at the best of times. Even in the dry winter conditions, it can be hard to see tracks on here. So we're going to just have to have a stroke of luck, I would imagine, in order to find our little princess. But either way, it will still be nice. It's a beautiful afternoon, I'll say that. It's the first, I was just saying to Seb, it's the first afternoon in a while where we've had beautiful sunshine, not too many clouds about, and so it's perfect conditions to be out on a drive. It's not too hot today. Look at that, isn't that nice? Bright blue skies, small little puffy white clouds, a bit of sunshine, but not too hot. There's a nice breeze that's blowing. So nice conditions to be on a drive, and it should be good for all manner of animals. Whether it's, we don't find our cats, it's going to be okay. We should get nice birds this afternoon, and also there should be hopefully some ellies out and about somewhere too. So we should have a good afternoon all in all. Like I said, it's always nice when we can catch up with our spotty friends, but if not, there's lots of other things to look at as well. Beetle just flew into my head, Sebastian. That's not ideal. Hopefully it didn't leave a mark. Sometimes the worst thing ever is when you get a dung beetle like Jamie showed you earlier, especially at night when you've got your lights on and your spotlight because you're looking for animals. The dung beetles will fly towards your light, and then they miss the light and they hit you in the face. And when they hit you in the face, sometimes they've been rolling around in the poo of elephants and buffalo and those kind of things, and they actually leave that poo on your face, which is very, very ugly and smelly, and it's not nice at all. So I'm glad it didn't. I hope it didn't leave anything. I don't smell anything like that, so I think we're all good. Is there a brown mark? Is there a poop mark? Do I have a skid mark on my top of my head? Yeah. I hope not. Anyway, let's move on rather quickly. Right, now we've seen South Africa, and we were saying that it's a beautiful day here in Djuma, but you haven't seen the Mara yet this afternoon, so let's send you up to Lauren so that she can say good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I can assure you it is a very beautiful day in Namara here with 30 degrees Celsius. It is very, very hot, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So my name is Lauren, and on camera today I do have Bungai. Now I do apologise for our absence. We were on a bit of a mission. You all know how much I love my missions. However, there was no signal in that area. So I do apologise. We tried with all the right intentions. However, we weren't able to quite broadcast from there. So we have turned around, and it is just glorious here today. It is extremely hot and extremely bright. So we're hoping for some very exciting sightings. That's a bit of a mouthful. And we have had good news on Busara. We know where she is, and we do know that she has made a kill. Whee! Goodness me, it took her long enough. We were very, very, very concerned about that leopard. She was getting a little bit too, not leopard, cheetah. I've got leopard on the brain. That was my mission. We were looking for a leopard. Cheetah. So yes, I was very worried about this cheetah because she was getting very close to the local villages, and that's where it becomes very, very worrying for us. But she's okay now. She's eating, she's away from the villages, she got her Thompson's gazelle, so hopefully we're going to make it just in time to spend a little time with her. Now, Busara, I've been calling her Queen Bee, move over Beyonce, Busara is here, does actually have two names out here. She does go by two names. So sometimes she will be called Busara, and sometimes she will be called Anashe, and that does depend on who you're talking to. So there's two different organizations out here, and I believe when she was born, she is the daughter of Amani. As we know, she was given two names. So I just wanted to clarify that up in case any of you were wondering. Now, someone was asking me a question, I think maybe Becky, but I could be wrong. Where have all the zebra gone? In our camp. They're all up the escarpment. As many of you know, we live right up the top of the escarpment, and all the zebra live up there. We see them every day on our way out before the gate, and every day on our way home. There's a lot of zebra. So they've all gone up the hill, they're all up the escarpment, and it's sad because it would be nice to see a lot more around here. I do love zebra, they are very hilarious. So yes, Becky, that's where they all are. Maybe one day we can try and broadcast from there and try and give you a lovely view of all the zebras to prove that they're still around, but it is on our journey out. It is very, very close to our camp. But let me see what we can do, and maybe we can get some zebra for you tomorrow. So it is very quiet on the animal front at this point. As I just mentioned, we were looking for a leopard, not a cheetah, a leopard, but that was the area where there was no signal. So we're coming back in a little bit closer to the sort of normal area where we normally drive. Mission aborted, and hopefully we will start to see a few more animals. Rosalind's asking how strong is a leopard? How strong is a leopard? Very strong? Really not sure how to answer that question. They're very powerful animals. They are built for power. So they're completely different from cheetah. I can't give a measure of strength, I'm afraid, but they are known, their sort of speciality, their niche is to hoist their prey up into trees. So I have witnessed a cheetah climb into trees, and I have witnessed lions climb into trees. But the reason leopards are so famous for climbing into trees is because they hoist their prey, and they can almost carry their body weight, some leopards even being known to carry more than their own body weight, up into a tree. So Rosalind, they are very, very powerful, very strong, but I cannot unfortunately give a measure of that. Was that rain, I feel? Maybe I'm going crazy. So yeah, they're very strong, and cheetah cannot hoist prey into trees, and neither, I don't believe, I haven't witnessed any lions doing it. So that's why leopards have these huge shoulder blades. They're massive, and they've got extra muscle attachment sites to make them extra strong for doing that. Yeah, that is rain, I feel. How bizarre. I think we've got a little tiny rain cloud above us, and it's spitting down on us, which is really strange because it's really sunny. But it's just drizzling, so nothing that I am too worried about this now. So let's go down to South Africa this now, and I figure out if this rain is actually going to be serious or not, and go to see Jamie.
Oh, Lauren, it's serious, all right, or at least it's going to be serious soon. The Mara, of course, has two different periods of rainy season. The short rains towards the end of the year, the end of the calendar year, and then the long rains, which are just about to start. I would say April or so is when they will begin, and that is, it's going to be something that the newer Mara guides have never presented or never experienced in their life before. Faith knows all about the Mara rains, don't you, Faith? We've had some good times staring out at, barely able to see our hands in front of our faces, and being completely unable to drive. You actually can't. The roads have turned into rivers, and there's some days where going out is completely impossible. So for now, they must enjoy the little brief Mara thunderstorms. Oh, there's wild dog tracks everywhere. They were here this morning, so I'm hoping that they might pop out a bit later this afternoon. They're not going to be around now, I don't think. They will be flat and fast asleep somewhere. Okay, we're doing one more loop. Otherwise, I'm going to leave this leopard search because there's lots of people moving around the area, and I'm going to go look for other things. Ah, Code Spider would like to know, I think it's Code Spider, or Code Spider, but Code Spider wants to know if we see certain animals more during certain moon phases. You know what, I think in terms of because we spend so much time tracking the animals during the day, our hit rate with certain animals, something like a a leopard or a nocturnal predator doesn't really change depending on the cycles of the moon, but animal movement does. So obviously during full moon there's a great deal more. Just checking around here. No, I'm just going to take the main road junction. Obviously during a full moon the diurnal animals, so the daytime animals, will move around a lot more because they can see. And I mean, even we as human beings, we're not fantastic at the whole night vision thing compared to the other animals. We can see pretty well. And in fact, in the Mara, when we were out there, because it's open, during the full moon nights, you could see almost as well as, or you could see well enough to move around the vehicle. If we weren't next to animals, we'd often get out and wander about a bit just to stretch our legs, because you can see really, really far. So that applies to the diurnal animals as well, and the diurnal predators. So cheetah hunt a lot more during full moon nights, and dogs are known to run around as well. So those are the two animals that typically do go to sleep when night falls. And the complete reverse happens for the nocturnal predators. It becomes much harder for them to hunt because they're more reliant on stealth and on ambush. So it becomes a lot harder for them to hunt during full moon nights, and their success rate isn't as high. And the animals are moving more around a lot more. So the grazers or the diurnal herbivores are much more likely to be moving about on full moon nights. New moon nights, it becomes a different story entirely. So new moon nights, it will favor the predators like the leopards and the lions. They will be there hunting. And obviously the best weather for them will be a stormy dark night where the wind is blowing a little bit and there's no visibility at all. That's when they thrive. But in terms of its impact on us, I don't think that there's any real noticeable difference in terms of what we see and what we don't. I find if it's raining, we're less likely to see a lot of the smaller nocturnal things. Also, it depends on the temperature of the day, because during summer months the nocturnal animals come out much later than they do, so it's more dependent on the temperature than it is on the phase of the moon. Okay, as we continue on, and I'm probably going to leave this leopard search and I'm going to go off in search of other things because there's too many vehicles searching now. Let's go back across to Lauren, who's doing a search of her own in the Mara.
A very, very tall mammal indeed. And what an interesting discussion on the moon, as it's not just the land animals that are affected by the moon cycle, it's also the ocean. Many, many animals, fish, especially rays and sharks actually are affected by the moon, and they will have different feeding patterns and seasonal patterns which are heavily influenced by the moon as well, primarily new moon and full moon. What an interesting discussion from Jamie here. But back to our beautiful giraffes. They are currently feeding. It's actually quite rare to drive past giraffes and see them not feeding. They are normally eating all day long, and they can actually consume about 34 kilograms per day of sort of delicious leaves and foliage. However, okay, that's just a little over 70 pounds, I think. I hope that conversion was correct. And we've actually got quite a few giraffes over here. We did have 4, but at the minute we can only see 2. And you can see one is actually standing tall and eating the leaves at the top of the tree, and the other one is completely bending down and eating leaves that are almost close to its feet. So they can eat the leaves at the very, very top of trees because they're so tall, but they can also bend down and eat leaves on the sort of bushes and shrubbery that are lower down to the ground. A lot of people think that giraffes just eat the leaves at the top of the trees, and of course we can even see that from now that is not the case. Now obviously I did mention earlier that we were looking for a leopard, but by and by the actual Latin name for a giraffe is Giraffe camelopardalis. And that is because they're very camel-like in the way that they move their two legs on either side to walk. So it's the two legs on the left and then the two legs on the right, the same as a camel, to walk. And pardalis actually means leopard, and that is from the sort of coloration and pattern of their skin. So it's not the leopard that we were looking for, but you know what? It's not a bad match. And I do love seeing giraffes. They're such a wonderful sighting. You can see them from miles away, and sometimes you think, is that a tree? Oh, no, it's a giraffe. And of course, they are the tallest mammal out here. So it's spectacular when you drive by and you are able to see some giraffes. They're very, very gentle. And as I've already mentioned, they do just eat all day long. And they move very slowly. We're getting a good view of this one moving. Look at that. Kristen is asking a really, really good question because it's quite a tricky one. And it is about giraffes laying down in the wild. When you first see a giraffe sort of lying down, you are taken aback. Now, they tend to fold their legs. So if you can just imagine it sitting down, and then they sort of tend to curl their neck around their body. So they don't lie down completely on their side, like many animals do. They sort of fold their legs, tuck their legs underneath their bodies, sit down, and then sort of wrap their neck around. And they do not stay on the ground for very long. They're sort of on high alert. It's like a power nap strategy almost. I'm very good at power naps. And they sort of sleep for around 4.5 hours out of the 24 hours a day because they're always on high alert. And they break this 4.5 hours up by sleeping during little short power naps because there is the worry that they become very vulnerable and there is, of course, predators around. So that's a really good question, and that is sort of how they lie down. It is indeed very bizarre to watch a curled up giraffe. It's also very endearing. It's very sweet to see that. The young giraffes do it a lot more often than the adult giraffes as well, as they tend to need a little bit more sleep. Now, time is marching on, and of course, there is a certain other spotted animal that I do want to show you. So we are going to continue driving. Sandstar saying she's a power nap champion. Yay, I love to hear it. I love a good nap. I love sleeping. But I have noticed that if I go over a certain time frame, I wake up and I feel like I'm in a completely different universe. Like, where am I? What day is it? But if I keep my naps to a specific time window, then I feel fabulous. So yay to being a power nap champion. I love it. But obviously it is important for the giraffes to be alert at all times. There's a lot of predators out here. Now I am just scanning around. It is important to keep looking around. You never know what you're going to see, so I always make sure I scan during drives. So for now, as we're trying to get to our next mission, we are going to send you back down to South Africa to see Tristan for an update.
It's very important to scan when you're driving, otherwise you're not going to see very much if you just stare at the road all the time. The only thing is sometimes when you scan to try and look at the camera and the sun is right behind it, you're going to blind and burn your retinas. So I do apologize if I'm squinting at you at this stage. It's just an awkward angle of the sun. Anyway, unfortunately, we've been looking and looking and looking, and there's tracks for 3 different leopards that are around. So it looks like a male track and 2 female tracks. So I wonder if maybe Tandy and Tlalamba have not gone off somewhere. They certainly look like they're traveling together, and they've gone in a sort of southeasterly direction towards our southern boundary. And we know that Tandy came from there this morning. She crossed from Little Gari. She was seen this morning crossing from Little Gari. I wouldn't be surprised she's got a kill on Little Gari and she's taken Tlalamba that side, which is not ideal. As for the male, though, tricky to know where he went. The tracks look like they're going north. So what we're doing at the moment is we're just doing cheetah cut line just in the off chance that either Tanya or Tlalamba turned somewhere and we missed it, and they've come this way towards Torchwood, or in the case of that male maybe coming this way. We know Tingana likes to move this side, and he often likes to go towards Buffelshoek Dam. So we're going to go all the way up Cheetah Cut Line, and then we're going to go to Buffelshoek Dam and just double check there. It's also a great place to go at this time of the afternoon. The dam's got lots of water, and so it's a good place for ellies, potentially buffalo if we're very lucky, because buffalo seem to have all but vanished these days. And then obviously a lot of antelope species like impala and waterbuck, and also birds. So there were spoonbills there the other day. So we're going to go and have a little look there. That's the kind of plan for our afternoon, just to try and check around. Otherwise, it's been quite quiet. I mean, we've seen the odd impala, but nothing really major. And I suppose when you're checking an area where 3 leopards have been moving around, you shouldn't really think that there would be too much going on there. You wouldn't expect a lot of antelopes to be hanging around. Kaylin, since leopards hoist prey, does that mean they lose more teeth? No, I don't think so. You must remember that, I mean, a lot of leopards do break their teeth here and there, but so do lions. You must remember lions and cheetah and the likes, they also drag their kills around all over the place. Just because they don't take them up into the tree doesn't mean they don't move them. You often will see a lion grabbing these baboons, or is this a leopard that's walked here? Hold on. I think it's baboons. Yes, baboons. There's too many tracks for it to have been a leopard. And so, I mean, they still will be able to drag things around. And when you're dragging something the size of a buffalo, the force exerted on those teeth is huge. So they're just as much likely to lose teeth. Also, remember when they're dragging or hoisting, generally the strain on the teeth is not huge. It's more when they're wrestling with an animal or fighting one another and that tooth hits a bone or something like that and the animal's squirming, that causes forces to take place, or they get kicked in the mouth in the case of something like the Charleston male, where he was kicked by a giraffe, that male lion, and that's how his tooth fell out. So it's more forces that are applied to the tooth rather than them just grabbing in a nice soft place and then taking it up into the tree. So no, leopards don't lose teeth more than any other cat. Well, certainly not as far as I'm concerned. I've seen just as many lions as leopards without teeth in the wild. So, but you know, I suppose when you're, like I say, a cat and you're dragging things around and moving things, it's very possible to chip and break and those kind of things. Right, now we're still going up Cheetah Cut Line. We're going to look very, very carefully. We're going to check all of the trees because the grass is quite long and there could be lots of things sitting in the trees, not only leopards. And so hopefully we'll get some luck. In the meantime, though, back to Lauren, as it seems like she's got some luck of her own.
My favorite bird, not just any bird, my favorite bird. I really, really love these birds. They are stunning. They stand out a mile away, and you can see there's 2 of them here, and they are the crowned cranes, a pair of crowned cranes. Now, a car's just gone past, so they have sort of ducked out our way, but I think we've still got a good enough view of them. And they are actually omnivores, so they obviously eat both insects and plants. So they can eat whatever they can get their hands on, although their diets, well, are generally said to consist mostly of plants and grains, and they're even said to eat very, very small fish. So they're just fabulous, fabulous birds. And while we were following the cheetah the other day, a beautiful cheetah was trying to hunt, and these birds, 2 of them, 2 crowned cranes, most likely male and female pair, would not let this poor cheetah get a breath. They were on high alert, and they kept alarm calling to let everything around know that there was a predator. So all the antelopes, all the different animals around became very aware that something was wrong and there was a predator in the area, all due to these birds. Now, they're said not to tweet. And I don't mean on Twitter, by the way. I'm sure they do use Twitter, but they don't actually tweet, as in the noise. They're said to honk. And I can vouch for this. After the other day, the noise they were making to alert everyone the cheetah was there was just absolutely incredible. More like a hippo than a gentle, graceful bird. So yes, they are very, very loud and noisy. So not little sweetie birds, but a honker. So they are the national bird of Uganda, actually, and they are just incredible to look at. They're really, really stunning. Oh, we have a few viewers saying they want to see me make the honk. My goodness. Okay, I'm thinking about how I'm going to do this. Okay, Bongai, are you ready? Bongai looks a bit puzzled just now. He's thinking, what exactly is Lauren going to do here? What is Lauren going to do here? Lauren is going to go... That was terrible, wasn't it? That was really bad. Let's go back to the birds. Okay, probably not like that, but something along the lines of that. And Faith is laughing in my ear. 9 out of 10, Faith. Thank you, honey. Yes, it was, yeah, something like that. Anyway, they're very, very vocal. So for being gorgeous looking and quite elegant looking, I think, actually, with the coloration and that gorgeous wig they have on the top of their heads, they're not very graceful when it comes to their vocal cords, shall we say. So I'm very glad I just did that. Thank you for all those who did request for me to do that. I'm sure you enjoyed it very much. So since they are my favourite bird, I did just want to stop and show you them, but we are going to continue on. We kind of blocked the road a bit there, so it was a little bit difficult for other cars to get past. So, oh, I always put this car into the wrong gear. I'm not sure why. Linth is asking, how do you tell the male from the female? Now, it's actually incredibly different. They're almost the same. I think there's a slight difference in size where the male is bigger, but it's said that it's very, very difficult to tell the difference. This is most likely a male and female pair. We're getting close to them. I'll maybe get Bongai to just put them on camera once more. Turn off the engine. But they're incredibly difficult to actually see the difference between the two. It's very, very difficult. And I'm not sure I could actually even potentially differentiate between the two. But I've never actually seen crowned cranes not in pairs. So out here in Namara, you see them a lot. And they're always in their male and female pairs. I've never seen big groups of them or seen them singularly. So great question, but it's very, very difficult to tell the difference between male and female. And look at them go. They're obviously picking up all sorts of goodies on the ground here. Oh, I just love them. They're fabulous, aren't they? So we are just going to continue on as we were earlier. Sorry about that, Bongai. I turned the engine on a bit too soon. A lot of people are saying they loved the call. Well, that is fabulous. I'm really, really glad you loved it. And I probably didn't do it any justice, to be honest. I might actually try and see if I can find the call on my phone to let you hear it properly instead of listening to my terrible impression. I am said to be tone deaf. I'm not very good with my vocal cords. Now, we do have a whole lot of buffalo here. I'm just going to get a little bit closer. This is a lot of buffalo. We actually got stuck earlier in buffalo traffic. We weren't able to move for about 20 minutes in the vehicle because we were surrounded by buffalo. So we're almost there. I'm going to give you a much better view of these magnificent creatures. So we haven't got much time left, but let's take a beautiful view at the buffalo soldiers. There is a lot of them around today. Now, this is another animal that's very, very different to tell the difference between male and female. Sometimes you can look at the coloration, but sometimes you can look at their horns, and it's a very, very slight difference. So it's another animal that from a distance, it's very difficult to tell from male and female. Only do that when you get a little bit closer. So for now, we're going to send you all the way back down to South Africa to see Jamie.
No, unfortunately. unfortunately, it is that time of the afternoon where we have to say goodbye to our Nat Geo kids. So it's been an absolute pleasure having you all on board. For the rest of our viewers, don't worry, the safari will continue. The Nat Geo kids will have to join us same time, same place next week. Remember to get your parents to send through your questions. Thanks for joining us, folks, and have a fantastic time wherever you happen to find yourself.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to our regular Saturday show. Now that we've finished with the kids, it is a very warm welcome to all of you. As you can see, we have a beautiful spoon bowl that is making itself, well, more beautiful by preening and kind of keeping itself a really good wash. Now, if you've just joined us, remember that we are coming to you live from South Africa and Kenya, and you can ask any questions or give any comments if you would like to, using hashtag SafariLive or at FC on the YouTube chat. And remember just to keep it relevant to what you're seeing on the screen, and hopefully we will be able to answer as many questions as you have. Now, also, before we kind of get into anything too serious, I need to introduce myself. My name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Sebastian. There we go. The commander, the drone pilot, is back. Seb, are you excited to be back?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. So you missed the bush. Seb had a lovely time in the Reunion Islands. Apparently saw an active volcano, which is very, very cool. So that's be awesome. And it sounded like you had a wonderful holiday. Now you can see there's Scuba Steve and Snorkel Sarah doing, well, what they do best, really, which is bobbing up and down, under and above the water. It's an exhilarating life they lead, really. You can imagine how much fun it must be just to go up and down. What actually is really cool at Buffelshoek Dam at the moment is not so much Scuba Steve and Snorkel Sarah. I mean, they are cool and I like hippos, but, you know, we've seen a lot of them doing just this. But in front of them at the moment, as you can see by what Seb is showing you, are the trees that are growing out of the water at the moment. Isn't that cool? So you've got these, what look like sinners. I mean, I haven't really gotten close enough to see, but they almost look like they are sinners, which are invasive, which is not really that good. Well, there are some that are invasive and some that are not. But they're growing out through the water, which is absolutely amazing. And Seb and I were just talking about it now, is how incredible Buffelshoek Dam looks now in comparison to November. In November, there was not a blade of grass anywhere around this dam. It was just a dust bowl, and the dam itself was completely dry. There was really just cracked mud everywhere, and there was one little tiny kind of mud wallow right on the far side. And now to see trees kind of growing out through the water is pretty incredible. It just goes to show you how those must have been deposited before it kind of filled up with rain. And then, given how shallow this particular section is, there's enough light getting through that they're growing out and through the water. But it's a very cool effect that is created by these guys. And I'm amazed at how thick the little trunks are of these trees already. I wonder if eddies are going to come and pull them up at some stage. It'll be interesting to see how these kind of last and whether or not they make it through the sort of winter period this year. All right, well, not much happening at Buffelshoek Dam. We probably going to carry on. In the meantime, though, it sounds like Jamie is also at a waterhole of her own, and hopefully she's got a little bit more of, well, I can't even speak, some more exciting things than what we've got here.
Chitwa waterhole always has the promise of something happening, and this afternoon is no exception to this rule. So we've moved on. We've come across to Chitwa. We've had a report that the Nkuhumas were around here this morning, so I'm going to go and see whether or not I can find them for the sunset safari. But then I'm going to be torn, because then I'm going to want to stay with the lions or go to the hyena den, and I'm not going to know what to do. It will, of course, for the sunset safari. But then I'm going to be torn, because then I'm going to want to stay with the lions or go to the hyena den, and I'm not going to know what to do. It will, of course, for the sunset safari. But then he's quite a young guy. He's going to be quite a large-bodied elephant. And right now what he's doing is he's doing Chitwa the service of de-weeding their dam wall. He's clearing it all out for them. And we've just been discussing now, it's a bit frightening. There's not going to be much water left in this waterhole by the end of the dry season. It is really, really dry. It feels like we've had good rain, but we haven't. Not enough to make up for the last 3 years. Look at these beautiful eyelashes. You can see the shadow of them on his ear. And how long they are. That, of course, serves a very important purpose in helping to protect his eyes. But, I mean, if ever you needed a mascara advert, an elephant would work very, very well. They don't need any, though. Massively thick and very long eyelashes. As they move through densely vegetated areas, it means that they don't get poked in the eye. And at the same time, of course, it helps to keep dust out of their eyes as well. Hey, boy. I'm on your way. Is this the way you usually come up? Now, I can see your path there. No, I'm not in your way. You've got lots of ways up. And the rest of the herd, he's obviously splashed across the top of his head there. Now, Tears from a Dream. Let me give him a little bit of... no, he's fine. I was going to back up a little bit to see if he could get up this section of the bank, because I think I might have taken the slightly less steep side. Tears from a Dream says that he doesn't look that big, but he's got nice sized tusks. I would say they're okay sized. They would say they're pretty average for an Eddie of his age. And of course, most of male elephants really blossom at around about 35, 40 years old, and they go through these periods where their tusks grow at a much, much faster rate once they reach that age. So he's still a youngster. He's got a long way to go. Tusk size, of course, is not necessarily all that critical in the life of an elephant. I know that yesterday, who was talking about it? Was it Sydney yesterday? I was watching the drive. Was talking about tuskless elephants. Obviously, their tusks are useful, and they do serve a purpose in terms of feeding for both the males and the females. And for males, when it comes to fighting, it's a combination of different factors. Physical size, and yes, big tusks are intimidating, but at the same time, if they get too long and they're too thin, they could also break off during a fight or a collision. Alice wants to know if elephants ever scratch their eyes with their trunk. Yes, they do. I've seen elephants rub their eyes. We often see it, actually. I've seen them rub their eyes with their trunk. And, of course, they also get that waxy buildup in the corner of their eyes in response to a lot of dust. And I cannot remember what it's called. Now, all of a sudden, I've gone blank. I've spoken about it so many times. I cannot remember what it's called. That pale, milky liquid that collects at the corner, often more prominent on dusty days. It's just a factor of the tear duct producing a lot of moisture to help to keep the eye clean. Yes, they do rub their eyes. Remember, their trunk is incredibly versatile and also incredibly coordinated. The dexterity of something that large and something that powerful is truly impressive. You want to come up this way, boy? I'm on your way. Now, of course, in the background, you can hear the hippos laughing away. laughing their way at whatever I've said, probably at my memory loss and the fact that I can't remember what the substance in the corner of the eye is called. What I'm going to do, because as you know, most of you know, our radios don't work terribly well here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here until a vehicle drives past. Do you want to come up this way? Because now we really can't see you. Let me go back. Hey boy. Got beautiful eyes in the sunlight. Yeah, we'll make it. Here we go. You got plenty of room now, mister. I'm going to perch myself on the edge of the dam wall a bit further back. Janet, yes, that's where I would put him. Janet wants to know how old he is. I would put him somewhere in his 20s. Maybe even just early 20s, in fact. I would put him somewhere around there. So he's still a youngster. He might even, there's a possibility, because I get a little bit shady about aging elephants at around about this point, in terms of, I'm guessing exactly how old he would be. He could even be a bit younger than 20. They actually, you know, if you were to chart the growth of an elephant, it obviously grows incredibly quickly in the beginning of their lives, and then it slows down gradually until the point that it almost slows down to almost a complete stop. Mister, poof, poof, I give you plenty of space. Full of nonsense. Yes, you are. Hello. Hello. I know you feel a bit vulnerable when you're coming up on your wrists like that. Hello, mister. You're cheeky. Oh, you're cheeky. They've all gone that way. Am I in your way? I don't think I'm in your way. I think you just want to throw your weight around. Yes, boy. Nicely. Paula wants to know where this Ellie's friends are. They're just... He's shifting that big dead log away where the dam wall has been brush packed because it acts like a seed bank. That's why he's doing that. He's getting to the nice fresh stuff that's been sheltered under there for the course of this entire rainy season. Don't worry, Paula, his friends are not far away. There's a herd a bit further down into the drainage line on the western side of the dam wall. And I'm sure he's got some male companions there as well. He's still quite young, which means that he won't be spending too much time alone. It's possible. He'll wander around on his own, then he'll sort of spend a bit of time with some other young males, then he'll move off on his own again. But he's not quite at the fully mature antisocial stage. Don't undo all their hard brush packing. He was very cross with you. Just shifting it around so he gets to the nice green shoots underneath. Just bear with me a moment. You can listen to the nice sound of the starlings and the weavers and stuff while I listen to the Game Drive radio. Of course, now the wind blows. Here's our starling that was chirping away. Alright, the guys are saying that they've found the lions, but they are in some very, very thick bush and almost invisible. So we'll slowly make our way that side. He's now moved away that log completely. It's the perfect spot. And with that, our elephant bull is departing. He's moving off. And he's told us exactly what he thinks of us while we digest that. Let's go across to Tristan and find out how it's going.
Well, lucky Jamie found herself her Ellie that she was looking for. I'm sure she's happy that she's managed to find the Ellies and they're around. I don't believe that everybody's been seeing all the elephants that they say they've been seeing, because I certainly have not seen an elephant at all the last few weeks, and so I'm not sure. I mean, I just had those 2 bulls the other day, but everyone seems to be having all these elephants and herds of them apparently, and there's not a single sign this afternoon at any of the water points that there is an Ellie around, so I don't believe it. But I suppose Jamie has 1 bull, which is good. Anyway, we're still just bumbling about and just trying to kind of see what's happening. I just want to quickly check. There's a little pan that's close to us where we are now, and this is roughly where that male track apparently was heading for the leopard. So I just want to quickly have a little look here and see what is going on in this particular area. You never know. I mean, this is an area where Hosanna and Shongile used to love spending a lot of time, but you know, since they've gone, Tandi very little. I mean, I've seen her once or twice, so there's a water buck, so but I haven't seen too many other cats spend time here before. It's an interesting one, because I would expect a lot of leopards, and particularly, and even dogs to a degree, to enjoy this little water point. It's so well kind of hidden, and I suppose it's all green. I wouldn't want to drink that, I would imagine, but you can see it's when it's clean, and it's obviously at the moment it's got a huge amount of algae. The water buck has run away, unfortunately, but it's got a huge amount of algae on that surface. So when it's clean, you can see it's a really nice little water point. It's nice and shaded, it's thick, it's right on the bank of the Mulwati. Looks like sludge that you wouldn't want to drink at all. Ugh. Imagine drinking that. It's probably because of all the nutrients from rhinos and elephants and buffalo that have lain there and defecated and urinated, and then obviously a bit of sun as well. But it looks like a kind of lime milkshake. What's quite nice is sometimes you'll get buffalo, when they lie in this, it can be really pretty, because you might think, why would that be? But a buffalo lies in this, and then it kind of moves up and down, and what it actually gets is it gets these lines on it of lime kind of green. And it almost looks like they've been painted by some crazy painter that's thrown kind of stripes all over them, and their ears get this green on them. It actually can be quite kind of interesting and creates interesting markings on things like buffalo and also on things like ellies as well. So it's a kind of cool place to see them wallowing from time to time. What have you seen? Oh, there's our water buck. He's come back. Hello, boy. Decided to make an appearance. Well hidden and camouflaged. Now, and you can imagine if an animal of that size is able to camouflage and to blend in as well as he does, you can think what some of the smaller animals are able to do. So things like wild dogs and the likes, I mean, they would be really tricky to spot in an area like this. So that's why it's good sometimes just to come and sit for a little bit and just see, are you going to come out for us? Oh, you are beautiful. That is a magnificent example of a male water buck. He is in his prime. You can see beautiful set of horns, big body, big thick neck, and really looks the part. Now I'm just going to quickly speak on the radio, so the guys are calling me. Go ahead, Orbs. Orbs, not far at all. So if you go onto Mumba Road, you'll see the 2-track that goes in. And on that big game path that goes to those mud wallows, there's a dead, I think it's a knobthorn that's there. And just at that dead knobthorn, you'll take a left, and then I think it's a marula that she put it in. But just kind of after that knobthorn, you'll see the marula and the tracks that go around it. So I'm just trying to guide the guys to go and have a little look around there, because everyone's trying to see if they can find Klalamba and Tandi, but no one's had any luck. Anyway, our water buck is not trusting of our presence at this little water point, and probably had a look at that water and thought to himself, I'm not drinking that, and has decided to kind of move off and leave the area. But I don't see anything else that's moved around here. It looks as though all is pretty quiet. I might just go a little bit forward just to double check. It's sometimes good just to see the edges of the water point, because if anything like a cat drinks on these edges, you can actually sometimes see footprints just in the mud that's right on the edge, because that edge is still a little bit wet. But what you can see here is that it's kind of all quite clean. None of the edges actually have any sign of a track on them. There's no little pug marks that is etched into that edging, and so I think at this stage no cat has drank here in the last few days, and I'm not surprised. Like I say, the water does not look very pleasant, and I think most cats would turn their nose up, particularly because there is so much water around at the moment. They don't really need to worry about drinking somewhere here. So Nancy, no, unfortunately not. We couldn't find that Ellie yesterday again. So he was kind of bleeding, and obviously we don't really sort of know what the end result was. Personally, I think his wounds were fine. I mean, like I say, when we went back and we checked his tracks, we couldn't find any sign of blood spotting on the tracks itself, which is generally, if you find blood on them, you know that they hit quite badly and they've got a lot of sort of blood coming out, and there's quite a serious injury. So I think more than anything, it looked worse than it probably was. What's definitely happened is his ear was definitely badly damaged. So it looks like where the elephant's ear joins, it looked like it had torn there, and it was very difficult. I went back and looked on the footage to see if we could see any sign of it, but the ear was torn and it was flapping over, and on the back here of the ear there was these big holes in it and blood coming out of that, and then he had those wounds just behind his sort of front leg, but those don't look too bad. So I think they were more kind of flesh wounds, if you want to call it that, than anything to really worry about. And we haven't found any sign of a dead elephant or any elephant that's in distress, and so I think he's just got a bit of a hiding and moved off, but he certainly is going to have a damaged ear, that's for sure. His ear is not going to look very good at all, although maybe it'll make him look hardcore and the ladies will love him, because now he's got this kind of floppy ear that's all scarred up. Maybe he'll be a real ladies' man now. He's got beautiful tusks, that particular male, so it would be nice to kind of see how he goes and try and find him again. Yesterday, I imagine with all the Ellies that were seen yesterday afternoon and this morning, that's probably why those two bulls were fighting. We suspected that that could be the case, and with so many females around, and it seemed like there was lots, that maybe these boys got into a bit of a tangle and ended up kind of fighting over a female, which is generally the case with Ellies. Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful time to be in the Mulwati. The temperature in here now is absolutely perfect. It's a nice time also for birds to start coming out, so while we're driving in here, it's a good time to look for our grey-hooded kingfishers, also pygmy kingfisher sometimes inside here, so it's a really nice time to kind of take a slow drive. Also a nice time for many of them moving around. That sun is getting a little bit lower, so hopefully we'll get some luck. In the meantime, let's send you back to Lauren, who's doing exactly the same thing as I am and is busy driving.
So we are on our way to see Queen Bee herself, but we're not there yet. We're almost there. It always takes a little bit longer to get places in the Mara than it does in Djuma, and the sun is slowly setting behind us. We're slowly losing light, so I am doing my best to put my foot down to get there before the light quite disappears, so that you can see her in all her glory. Now, I didn't want to say too much on the kids' drive earlier, but it was very worrying when she was at the top of the escarpment right outside our camp, and she did go into Angama, which is the nearest sort of lodge next to us. She actually went in there, and they have lots of guests there at the minute, and she was wandering close to the villages. So of course the rangers were on full alert, but it just was slightly worrying because she was clearly so hungry. We saw her miss how many hunts. She looked very skinny, that, oh, I think she's still there, that she could potentially have went for a goat or even a dog. So it was just a very worrying situation. So I'm just so happy to report at the minute that she's back down from the top of the escarpment, and she's with us, and she's obviously made a kill. Now, it's not easy being a cheetah with all the other sort of predators out here. She's not only got to use all her energy to make that kill, and although cheetahs are incredibly fast, it takes a lot out of them to actually use that energy and make the kill. So she's got to sort of get her energy back up again, and she's got to eat fast because kleptoparasitism, when animals will steal the kill, not just hyenas, I'm talking about lions, all sorts, all the predators tend to steal from one another in some sort of way, that she has got to be on guard and eat fast before she loses it. So hopefully this is just her up here. I'm very excited to see her. But it maybe wasn't something we wanted to necessarily show on a kitch drive, so it's perfect timing that we're just reaching her now. I can't wait to see you, girl. She's fast becoming... Well, she's stolen my heart, let's just say that. I've spent so much time with her now that she has 100% stolen my heart. So you're going to have to bear with me just to get into the right position here. It's not the easiest thing to do when there's other vehicles. Hi! Now she is up here somewhere. But you're just going to have to give me a few minutes to find her and get into the right position. Oh, there we go. Okay, we have got a terrible angle of her, I'm not gonna lie. I think Faith was very excited for us to find her, but we are going to quickly let you see her, and then we are going to have to turn around and change position and adjust our sight of her a little bit. But there you have it. We have Queen Bee, who is clearly resting. Now, where is your Tommy, girl? So as I mentioned, we are going to reposition because this is not the right place we want to be in, and there are other vehicles. So please bear with us, and we will send you down to South Africa to Jamie for an update.
I've been deceived. I've been deceived. My heart is broken. Craig's also very sad. Or at least very quiet. I don't think he's heartbroken. But the bad news is that the lions are not on Chitwa. So I thought they were. I came running along, well, not running, came driving along to go and see them. I was so excited to see the Nkuhumas, but they're on a nets, which is to the south of Chitwa, and unfortunately is an area where we're not allowed to drive. So the way that this works, for those of you that don't know, is an area cannot be overpressurized by a number of vehicles. So it makes sense. You know, otherwise it would be people driving round and round the same area, too much pressure on animals. So what happens is that the land is divided up into different people who own it, and they have different agreements with surrounding lodges, with people like us, with private landowners and so on. And it's a way of sort of making sure that the vehicles are evenly distributed. Is there a financial aspect to it? Absolutely. But it's basically the fact that some vehicles can go to some places where we can't, and we can go to some places where other vehicles can't. So all the vehicles who are visiting the lions now, for example, cannot go onto Djuma and drive around there. So that's what traverse means. That's what we mean when we talk about traverse, and the fact that we can't go somewhere. It's not closed. There's no fence. The animals can do what they want, but it really is luck of the draw as to where those animals stop. And because the animals' territories, especially here, are very, very large, it means that at some point you will see them. It's just a matter of not today. And unfortunately for us, it's a not today. So what I've been doing is I've just been cruising around Chitwa looking for Kuchava, and then I'm going to start to make my way back to where those wild dogs crossed this morning in the hope that they're there. I know, it is a bummer. I'm sorry. I got very excited. I haven't seen the Nkuhumas in a long time. I want to go and see how Amber's doing, if she's got any suckle marks. I'll try and find out from Dylan how she's looking or how many are there. Ooh. Shrivant, what a good question. If there were a person that I could guide on drive, who would it be? Do I have to choose one person? Because that's really hard. That is really, really difficult. Obviously, they've got to be living at the moment. See, I think, okay, Faith says it's got to be a top 3 and only 3. Ew, I nearly got myself into trouble. I nearly said someone who's going to cause such an argument on chat because it's a political figure. It's going to cause such an argument, I'm not even going to say it because you're all going to start shouting at each other and someone from this team will start shouting at someone from that team and I'm not giving you that leeway. So we're not going to do that. I'm not going to say that. I think I would love to take... Oh, this is hard. You see, I'm thinking about Stephen Fry. Okay, I'm going to list names, but it's not my final list. Okay, so don't shout at me. I feel as though Stephen Fry would be amazing. I think he'd be really funny. And I've seen Douglas Adams. Douglas Adams is the last chance to see. He went back and retraced Douglas Adams' steps. So he does have a certain affinity for little animals like these dwarf mongoose that I can hear chirping away. Trying not to make Craig's life too difficult. Let's just see if they relax while we talk about this. David Attenborough, would I like to take David Attenborough on safari? I think I would be so intimidated that I would probably lose my ability to form a coherent sentence. He's just so lovely. Sir, sorry, Craig. You see, I'm already making mistakes at the thought of it. I'd forget the sir, and then he'd be upset, and then I'd have made David Attenborough sad, and I just quite frankly would not be able to live with myself. Sandy Toksvig would be amazing, although I don't think she's really a nature person. Gosh, I've never thought about this before. Yeah, a really good question. Depends. Am I allowed to take tips into consideration? Because, you know, quite happily take Elon Musk on a safari. I got it. I want to take Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively on safari. And I think you all need to tweet them right now and tell them that that's what they have to do. All right, let's go find out from Lauren if she's found her cheetah, A, and B, who she would... I'm not sure who she would take on safari, but let's find out what she thinks.
Look at my darling girl. Look at how sleepy she is. She must be so full and fat right now. And honestly, it warms my heart to see her so fat because, as I mentioned, it has been a worrying time. Look at that look of satisfaction. Isn't it adorable? And this is indeed Busara, also commonly called Anashe. Our slowly becoming resident cheetah. I do hope she stays around a lot longer. I mean, this is almost pushing, I think, 5 or 6 days that we've actually seen her in a row. So it's very, very wonderful to have her here again. And Bungay is just giving us a view of her kill. And this is, of course, a Thompson's gazelle, which is the perfect size prey for her because cheetah generally do hunt small to medium size antelope. Obviously, if there's a coalition of males or there's more than one, they will go for a bigger animal. But a lone female like this one, the Thompson's gazelle, is probably the absolute ideal size for her. Now, obviously, I mentioned that we have been worried about her, but I have a sneaky suspicion that she might have been sort of sustaining herself on maybe scrub hares or small birds. I don't or maybe even just one scrub here to sort of get her through the difficult times. I'm not 100% sure that she would have went without food all of that time. So there is a possibility that at night time she might have hunted a small scrub hare or even a small bird or some sort of animal that is of course a little bit easier for her to catch, because I'm not sure 5 to 6 days without any food for her would be okay. Now of course predators like this, lions, leopards and cheetah, they are used to the sort of feast famine way of life from a cub, so they are used to that. That is how they brought up. But this girl here I think has sort of snacked along the way, and of course a scrub hare would be absolutely ideal for her. So I'm so happy she's done it. And we were here earlier, we did actually have a little check on her, and it was a lot more gory. She has moved the kill. It wasn't in that position earlier. We had a good view of it earlier. So she's obviously stashed it away a little bit. And as she was feeding, she was on continuous high alert. Now, cheetahs get very, very nervous. I've observed this quite a lot now when they are feeding. They are aware at any moment something could come along and steal it off them. So she was eating fast. She was eating very quickly. One, because she's hungry, of course. But two, there is that worry that something else might come along from the ground or even the sky and try to steal her food. So she was eating a lot, very, very fast. A bit like me at Christmas, I'm not going to lie. So she probably is way full right now, panting quite rapidly there, and most likely enjoying the cooler temperatures so that she can sort of rest and digest. Oh, she's just stunning. I'm so happy to spend a lot more time with these animals, and I just feel very blessed that we've been granted a lot of time with this cheetah in particular. She's fast becoming a character for us and warming our hearts every day. So the sun is starting to set. We've got it just peeking above the hills, but it obviously is slowly going to go down, and it will get dark for her. Dos Panthod, I think that was a name, I'm actually not entirely sure, is asking exactly how old she is. Now, she is said to be around 3 years old. She has been known around Damara. She's known to the researchers, and we do know who her mother is. Her mother is Amani. Now, there is obviously two names, as I've mentioned. A little bit of confusion regarding the names. Some people call her Bisara. Some people call her Anashi, I think that's how you pronounce it. But she is the daughter of Amani, and she's said to be around 3 years old. And cheetahs are said to live generally on average to around 16 years old. Now, this is obviously just an average estimate because there's always the exceptions to the rule, but approximately 16 years old is how long they are said to live for. So if she is to have a full and happy life, which of course we hope she does, then she's got a long road ahead of her. Now, I have mentioned this before, but she is actually said to have had cubs, 3. Last year, I believe around July, and unfortunately she did lose all of them. There is sort of speculation that she lost one to some sort of buffalo incident, and I don't believe we're entirely sure what happened to the others. So that is just speculation. Please allow me to clarify that. But she has lost them. So hopefully she will produce another viable litter of cubs very soon. Can you imagine that? Little cheetah cubs running around. Oh my goodness, I'm actually not entirely sure that my heart could handle that. Nancy's asking, I think, would she have eaten rats if she couldn't find food? I think that was the question. Not entirely sure, but I hope it was. Faith will correct me if that's wrong. I believe she would have sort of used any sort of opportunity to eat if she was that hungry. So most likely here, as I mentioned, it would be scrub hares or small little birds, but I guess any opportunities for her she would have taken as a little snack. It wouldn't have sustained her for very long. Small to medium-sized antelopes is exactly what she needs. But yes, I guess she would have if she was that hungry. Now, I can see Bongai looking off to the other side of me. He's eyeing up that sunset. I can see you. So let's go and check it out because it is really, really beautiful. That's what we're looking at right now. And believe it or not, we actually live at the very top of that escarpment. So that's all the way that we travel to get down. I think Faith is missing it very much, of course. She is from here. So that is a beautiful, beautiful sunset that we are looking at right now. And it really is ideal for our beautiful queen here to sort of get some cool temperatures. There's a nice breeze passing through now to just cool her down from all that feeding. Wow. Breathtaking. So we travel all the way from the top of that hill, if you like, every day to get down into the Mara Triangle. So it's quite a journey, but once you sort of pass that gate and you see the view in front of you, it is just, I don't think I'll ever get used to it. And that is, of course, what we see every single morning. So someone was asking earlier where the zebras are, and that's exactly where they are, up the escarpment. So of course we are going to lose light soon, but we just wanted to show you this beautiful scene in front of us. I think we shall go back to our queen before we lose too much light. I just saw Bungay eyeing that sunset as I was looking into the camera, so I thought it was the perfect opportunity. And of course Busara looks like she's enjoying it very, very much. So, of course, we are not going anywhere. There's no doubt I am leaving this queen for the rest of the drive, but I do believe Tristan in South Africa has another spotted cat.
We do. It took a while, and obviously we drove past her a few times when we were looking for her earlier, because she's in exactly the same place that she should have been. But given how thick it is in places, I suppose we just missed where she was lying down. But she's now up in the tree and is as camouflaged as you can imagine. Even up there, you can see big round tummy, which is her hard-earned meal. Now, in terms of, I'm saying her as though you might know who this is, but it's Tlalamba. If you weren't sure, Tandi's not here by the looks of things, and the size of her is probably an indication, which you wouldn't really get on a screen, but it is definitely a little Tlalamba, and she's like a little sausage in her own right at the moment. And I'm glad, because yesterday she wasn't looking skinny, but she could certainly do with the meal. And so the fact that she's had a really good feed and managed to get herself a nice size kill has been very, very cool to see. And you know, for us to have been able to witness her killing it is always quite an interesting thing. It's always nice to see how that technique is developing. And once you know that they're able to kind of kill these animals themselves pretty easily, or effectively is probably the better word, I don't know about easily, then you know that they kind of getting to that next step in terms of being able to feed themselves, and that's going to be a vital step in terms of becoming an adult female. So it's a big bridge when she kind of crosses those moments, and to be there for some of them is really nice. Obviously she has hunted before. I'm not saying this is the first time she's ever killed anything, but it's certainly a big kind of step. Now, Crafty, would Tlalamba supply, Tandi supply Tlalamba with food still? I'm not sure, actually. It's an interesting question. We've been debating it this week. Tandi was obviously here today, so she was seen at the sighting this morning by one of the landowners late in the morning. Apparently she arrived here, and then from here it seems like she might have left. She could obviously still be sitting somewhere here. It's so thick and dense that it's very possible that she is still lying under a thicket somewhere and will kind of make an appearance just now. But it seems like she's not here anymore. And if that's the case, then in all likelihood, Tandi really is not worrying too much about Tlalamba. And if she can see that Tlalamba can feed herself, then she'll probably find that separation is going to start happening quite quickly. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. It's been a while since we've seen Tandi fetch Tlalamba, take her to a kill, and have the two of them at a kill by themselves. I believe the last time that the two were seen together, there were two different kills, and Tlalamba was with one and Tandi with the other one, but in the same place. So I'm not really sure if Tandi is still providing. But if Tandi comes across scenes like this and finds Tlalamba with a meal, then in all likelihood she's going to know she doesn't have to worry too much about providing a meal for her anymore. It was a beautiful, beautiful afternoon, isn't it? She's chosen a rather kind of ugly tree in terms of being able to see her. A great tree for her, though. It's shady and well hidden and very difficult for people to kind of see her. And it's a beautiful, beautiful kind of shaped tree for us to look at, but very tricky to kind of get a nice view of her. And the way she sort of tucked herself, you you can't actually see her face or anything like that. So we're going to have to just be patient and wait for her to potentially move. The amount of food that she's got left, because she took a little piece of the kill up with her, apparently is almost non-existent. And so I would imagine she'll finish that and then she'll start coming down and hopefully going for a bit of water. Much like she did last night with Rusty, she kind of came down and walked towards water as that sun had set. So hopefully she'll do the same thing for us this afternoon. Stephanie, how long can big cats go without eating after a big meal like this? Quite a while, actually. I mean, they would easily be able to do 2 weeks, but they'd be very kind of hungry by then. 2 weeks would be pushing the limit of their hungers. And remember, with these guys, they don't really kind of have that same ability as us to sort of starve themselves. If there's opportunity, they're going to take it. But 2 weeks would be the kind of real sort of push and limit to their body sustaining themselves. They'll start to get quite weak, and then hunting's going to become a lot more tricky for them. So yeah, you know, most leopards or lions after a big meal are already hungry in 2-3 days and could do with a meal. So it's a very quick digestion of the protein that they take on, and you'll be surprised. I mean, she's quite full in fat today, but if we find her tomorrow morning, you'll see how that stomach has really kind of shrunk already. So they process what they eat quite fast, and that's why they typically hunt as regularly as they do. But it's really good news that she's hunting for herself and is being successful at the moment. I mean, this is the second kill of a small antelope that we know of, and so, you know, these are all good signs that she's taking the next step into becoming a solitary individual. Matt, I take it that you are a fairly new viewer to SafariLive, because you're asking about the breathing and her breathing that fast, if it's normal. Yes, Matt, it is most definitely normal, particularly after a big meal. So what's happening there is that there's two things at play. The first is that obviously she's eaten a lot of meat, which has distended that stomach hugely, and that means that it's pushing up on the lungs, and her ability to take in a huge amount of air has been compromised. So she's only able to take shorter breaths. It's like, imagine if somebody basically comes and sits on your stomach and kind of pushes up against your lungs. Your breaths are much shorter, and so that's one reason why she's breathing as fast as she is. The second reason is that the processing of this meat and the time of the day that we're at, it's very warm, and her body itself is hot, and so she's trying to cool herself down, and so they do what's called panting, and so she'll open her mouth and she'll quicken her breathing rate, and basically what's happening then is the saliva that is on her tongue, there is hot air being expelled by her body when she breathes out. That warm air goes over the saliva on her tongue. You'll get basically evaporation that takes place when heat is added to liquid. The evaporation causes cooling, and so that cooler blood in her tongue then back into her body, and it's basically the way she controls her temperature as well. So that's why you've got that fast breathing rate. It's perfectly normal in cats to see them like this, particularly on a warm summer's afternoon. You'll find that they often are like that. And I mean, it's not exactly hot this afternoon. It's in fact fairly kind of cool, but she's full, and her body temperature is probably high, especially given that she's just gone up the tree, because she wasn't up the tree when we were here earlier. We checked this tree, she most definitely wasn't lying there. So, you know, she's managed to kind of climb, and that would have increased body temperature. And actually, you can see the little piece of meat. You see it there, Seb? Yes. So there's the piece of meat that we're talking about. She's hung over there. No, it definitely wasn't there earlier. I also checked there, but it's literally just two legs that, by the looks of things, it doesn't look like too much more. And there's a little kind of back end that's hanging, so she's kind of stretched it out. But I'm surprised there's as much as there is, given if Tandi was here as well. I'm surprised Tandi didn't eat more. There's the head there and neck kind of going down. Right, well, hopefully she's going to head towards the carcass, because the light on the carcass itself is absolutely beautiful. So hopefully she'll head that way. In the meantime, though, let's send you back up to Lauren in the Masai Mara with the other spotted cats that we get here in Africa.
Well, I have just spilt water all over me, so do excuse me as I shuffle around here trying to get the water off me. Apologies. So, of course, our darling is still lying here. She hasn't moved at all. And I have been asked to think about who, if I could take one person, who I would take on a drive with me. Oh, my goodness. Faith is going to be mad, but I'd like to say 3 people. I can't decide between 3. So maybe I'm just going to say 3. Hopefully she's not too mad with me. So of course this has already been discussed, but I would absolutely love to take David Attenborough on a drive with me. And I know his name has already been mentioned, but of course, being from the UK, and he did also attend the same university as me for a while, he is of course an absolute hero to Britain, I guess. So definitely him. Second, I'm sure many of you are already know I'm going to say this, but it would be Mr. Aquaman himself, Jason Momoa. Would I be able to handle that if he was on board? I'm not sure I would. That could be a difficult situation. Oh, is that a hippo in the background? That is a hippo. Oh, fantastic. We're just going to show you a hippo walking not too far away from Busara. And third, I would love to take Jared Leto. I am crazy about Jared Leto, for many reasons that I shan't go into, but I would love to take him on a drive with me. So I'm sorry I didn't answer the question to the strictest of rules, but those are the 3 people I would love to take on a drive with me. Incredible! That hippo is really not that far away. It's obviously already left the water and has started his or hers, I cannot see from her, grazing. Wow, incredible! I love seeing hippos just jauntily skip on their high-heeled looking legs, and that's really, really not that far away from Busara at all. Yes, so of course my research and knowledge into cheetahs is just absolutely expanded. I am crazy fascinated with these animals, and as much as I do love my leopards, I'm fastly being absolutely amazed by cheetahs. So I mentioned earlier the predator hierarchy. Now it's just something that people refer to in sort of the chain of predators. But what fascinates me is that each predator is sort of adapted to their own niche, if you like, in order to avoid competition, to survive and thrive in the sort of big bad world out here. They've all sort of adapted their own unique specializations, and I feel the cheetah has just gone that extra mile, and the way that they have adapted to surviving out here is phenomenal. So I mean, they are of course designed for speed. I think everybody is aware of that long lean body, an incredibly flexible spine. A lot of research has gone into a cheetah's spine and how they actually maneuver themselves, and it's just incredible. Those narrow hips, and of course they have got that huge tail. It almost looks a little bit comical when you see the cheetah's tail, because it does look like it's too big for its body, but it's not. It does indeed act as a rudder. Now, one thing it's just blown my mind is the cheetah's inner ear. Now, it's quite a recent discovery that when cheetahs are going so fast, obviously their spine is moving, their body is moving, their legs are moving, incredible speed. But when you look at a cheetah's head, it actually remains very, very still. The head barely moves, and it's able to maintain complete eye contact with whatever it is chasing, whatever prey it is. And this is actually all down to the design of the cheetah's inner ear. Now, of course, we all have the inner ear. And generically, it's all very similar, I guess. But cheetahs is actually completely different from all other felids. Now, the inner ear consists of 3 semicircular canals, which we all have, even humans, and which are filled with fluid. And that's obviously for balance, I guess. But the cheetahs are much wider and much longer. And if you actually look at the inner ear of a cheetah compared to ours, as in humans, and other, your lions, your leopards, any other felids out there, it is completely different, and that is due to the fact that they need such a strong inner ear to maintain balance in order to keep their head still when chasing prey. And it's quite a recent study. It wasn't really well researched exactly how cheetahs do that, and I just think that was incredible. Their inner ear does not look like what it does in other cats. Of course, the general setup is the same, but it's different so that they can keep their prey in sight. Incredibly interesting. I just think the cheetah is just really well designed for what it does. It's just an incredible specialized hunter. And the more time I spend with this lovely lady, the more I am absolutely blown away. So if you ever do see a cheetah hunt, just watch it in slow motion if you can, or sort of slow it down in any way. And you can see that it's so fast in terms of its legs and its muscle. Everything moves with such coordinated power, but its head will hardly move at all. It's definitely worth checking out because it's so fascinating. It's all down to that little inner ear. Isn't it, Busara? Are you listening to me? I'm not sure this girl's going to be going anywhere for quite some time. I didn't quite get that question. I know it's to do with spots, but I am actually going to wait until Faith repeats it so I don't make a fool of myself and start answering the wrong question. It is something to do with spots. Oh! I was wrong. There you go. So Kimberly's asking, does cheetahs have soft or coarse fur? Now, I have actually never felt a cheetah. Of course, I haven't. It's not advisable that anybody does go up and touch a cheetah, of course, although I do think if I was to jump out this vehicle, Busara would run. But I do believe from what I've read that their fur is much softer than the likes of a lion's. They have very, very soft fur, and of course they need to be very streamlined and very aerodynamic for running, as well as all the other adaptations that they have, that I do believe their fur is very, very soft. But if anyone out there has, of course, cuddled a cheetah, which would just be an absolute dream, and they beg to differ, you are welcome to tell me. I believe a lion's coat, the fur of a lion, is a lot thicker and a lot coarser than the likes of our cheetah right here in front of us. Now, I remember the first day we saw Busara, actually. I did initially think she was a male. I told people she was a male. She is a very long and lean and very powerfully built cheetah. It's quite hard to tell the difference between the two sexes, other than, of course, looking at the genitals. But from a distance, you tend to look at size. The females are marginally smaller, as with many animals in the animal kingdom. But when I first saw Busara from a distance, we didn't know who she was. It was a surprise sighting, shall we say. And I just automatically thought she was a male. So I, of course, was wrong. She is a female, but she's a very well-built and powerful female. So it's very good to see she's made a kill. And of course, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying with her for a little bit longer. But for now, we're sending you back down to Tlalamba.
Well, I think it's much like our approach, Lauren, is we're also not going to be going anywhere. And I was watching Lauren the other day, and she was saying how surprised she was at how big cheetah are. Everyone always thinks of cheetah as these tiny little cats. They're actually a lot taller than people think, certainly much taller than our leopards, but obviously just not as bulky and heavy and not quite as powerful. But they're an impressive animal in their own right. And in terms of their fur, so their fur is not a domestic cat soft that lives at home, but it's not exactly coarse either. It's not quite like a lion's. It's a kind of in between the two. I mean, even on the tummy is quite soft, and then the back is a little bit more kind of coarse. It's very much like a leopard, actually. You know, they're kind of in between lion and domestic cats in terms of what they feel like. Now you can see there's beautiful, beautiful kind of spots of golden light all around little Tlalamba. So our little sausage needs to decide to move and come out a little bit into the beautiful light, because if she goes towards her carcass, it's going to be the most incredible golden color that we're going to get. You can see where the carcass is in the perfect spot for gold light if she went and sat there. So we need to all wish her to kind of move in that direction, because she'll look at her absolute best if she goes and sits in that spot over there. But either way, it's still nice to spend time with her. It's been so pleasant just sitting and listening to the sounds. There's two other vehicles with us, but they're being very quiet as well, so you can hear the birds every now and then, and it's been very pleasant just spending the afternoon with the little princess. So it's been, I suppose, a few weeks now, or months actually, of really kind of epic sightings of little Tlalamba over the course of the last little bit. Now, Faith is saying that maybe I should get involved with who I would take on drive, which person or top three I would take. You know, funny enough, for me, obviously everybody always goes straight celebrity route. I don't really hold much credence in celebrities. I feel like there's a lot of normal people out there that are just as incredible in their own right that don't particularly do things. For me, I would want to take my two grandparents, so both grandparents from both sides. The one set, particularly my dad's parents, they were the ones that kind of set me off on the path that I'm on at the moment. And so when I was younger, I didn't... Obviously, you don't really get to know a lot about what, how to say thank you in many ways. And going to the parks and spending time in them with grandparents was super special. And they both unfortunately passed away before I was a guide in the Sabi Sands, and it would have been so nice just to have taken them out on a drive like this and being able to discuss things a lot better than what they are, what I could as a kid, and go through things and kind of spend time out here. It would have been very pleasant. So I think on that side, and my other grandparents obviously did so much for me as well as a kid, and also took me to the bush. And so without either set, it would have been very difficult to have been on this life that I'm in now. And I'm always grateful for the fact that I get to spend time out in the bush, and that they started me off on that kind of, I don't know what the word would be, thirst for sort of knowledge, and to actually appreciate the natural world and not kind of take it for granted. So those would be the people I would take. It would be nice to spend time with somebody like a David Attenborough or something like that, just from a naturalist point of view. I think they'd be super fascinating people to be around, but I think the enjoyment factor and the kind of, I don't know, the sort of importance of it all would be far better for somebody that I knew that I could be able to take on drive. I don't know, that's just me. I mean, like I say, everyone's different and everyone has everything else. There's one other person, this super famous French-Gabonese pilot, apparently, that I'm supposed to want to take on drive. It's just reminded now by Sebastian. He said that there's this famous French-Gabonese pilot who's apparently a legend in his own right. But I've actually in Gabon only. Oh, sorry, Seb, man. Only in Gabon, apparently. That's just Seb was joking that. I get to take you on drive all the time, Seb. It's always a pleasure to take you on drive. We've discussed many of the world's problems, as well as, obviously, many other kind of fun things. Oh, Tesla, that's very kind of you. So Tesla is 8 years old, and it's always nice to hear from Tesla because I like Tesla's questions. She always asks nice questions, and she's always watches the show, so it's very nice. And she says that she would like to go on drive with me. Tesla, that's very, very kind. And maybe one day, who knows what the future holds, maybe, when you're a little bit older, you'll be able to get out into Africa and we'll be able to make a plan. But it's very kind when people say things like that. I certainly don't feel like I'm in that class of kind of guides or people that somebody would want to actually kind of go on a drive more than anything else with me. So it's very kind. But little Kalamba, look at that. Oh, look at those eyes, how beautiful that is in that light. Absolutely magnificent. She's super, super pretty. I'm hoping that she's going to move a little bit and kind of turn. But anyway, while we sit and admire little Kalamba and we contemplate those that we would love to go on drives with, let's send you back up to Lauren and her spotty cat in the Mara.
So we got up, we turned around, and it looks like we are now having some food. So now we have a terrible view of her, which is really not ideal. I'm thinking about just moving forward a little bit to see if we can, of course, get her gorgeous face. At least she's snacking, though. And the hippopotamus is, of course, in front of us. We're just actually keeping our eye on the hippo because they're not exactly what you want to bump into in the middle of the night. And it was hilarious just seeing it skip ahead there, wafting and defecating its dung as it walks along. They look so elegant and skippy and happy, and then you see that it's defecating as it goes. Okay, Bonge, you might have to help me a bit here. Busara, you've really not got yourself in a great position for us. Can you see her head? Okay, let us just try from here. I think I can see her head, and she's actually having a little bite of the Tommy just in between those bushes. Let's see if my hero cameraman can actually get a good view from you. For you. She is there, of course. She's obviously just having a little snack. Now, female cheetah alone are generally solitary until they have cubs. Oh dear, that's terrible, isn't it? That really isn't the best of views. Shall I go back or forward? What do you think, Bungay? Okay, so I'm going to wait on instructions from my cameraman to make sure I get the best view for you, because at the moment this is terrible. And as you can imagine, we have gone into IR. So for now, we're going to send you back down to our beautiful Princess of Juma till we fix our position.
Well, we are still with Clolamba at the moment, and she's still kind of hanging out. She's got her paw hanging. Sounds like there is also apparently wild dogs somewhere, not too far from where we are, that are coming out from Little Gowrie side. So I wonder if maybe Jamie's going to be able to catch up with them. Hopefully they'll cross over into our side. Wouldn't it be quite something if they appeared here with little Clolamba? She would be absolutely fine because she's way up in the tree, so she wouldn't have to worry too much, but it would be really nice if those dogs did arrive somewhere in this area. I have no idea which pack it was. I know that they were seen on Juma very briefly around sunrise this morning and then crossed into Little Gowrie. And then from there they started to kind of middle about on Little Gowrie, and looks like they're now starting to come north. The problem with wild dogs is that the radio seems to go equally crazy, and you, as they do when they're running around, and so your ear gets completely chewed out and it begins to bleed when wild dogs are called in because of how much talking there is. So definitely not going to be listening to the radio much for the next little bit. We'll leave that to Jamie to deal with, because she's going to have to kind of figure out where they are and whether or not she can get to where they are. But it will be nice to have them. It's been a while since we've seen dogs. When was the last time you saw dogs, Seb? Did you see them before you went on leave?
Yeah, a couple of times, I think, yeah, before going on leave.
Okay, so Seb said he's brief sightings of them a few times before he went on leave, which is very, very pleasant. Now you can see she's just dropped her head down. How she sleeps like this, I don't know. She makes the most uncomfortable spots look very comfortable. She'll often dangle her head and her legs over these branches, and will really kind of look as though she's almost kind of dead when she sleeps like that. But I can assure you she's very much alive. I can't see how it can be comfortable though. I mean, that branch must be digging right in to her shoulder and her chest area. But apparently it works for her, and so that's how she's going to sleep. You would think that she would just reverse back a little bit and she would have a much nicer branch to kind of lie on, but the youth of today, you can't tell them anything. They're always up to their own things and have their own ideas about life. But you can see how that light has faded all of a sudden. It's just gone completely, and she's really kind of now going to probably have a good nap. She doesn't have any sun in her eyes. It's not too bright. It's absolutely perfect. Really fantastic. Yes, cats do have the weirdest poses. They can get themselves into positions which are just completely kind of unique. You would think that it really wouldn't be comfortable the way that they move around, but they do, and they seem to enjoy sleeping like that and moving like that. So it's quite entertaining to kind of watch their way that they do things. But how beautiful is that setting with that sky? The only thing that could make that shot more beautiful is if there was less branches and she was kind of silhouetted against that pretty sky. That would make it that much better. But she's still a seriously beautiful cat, and it's still a beautiful picture to be out in Africa looking at one of those most iconic animals against a setting sun kind of backdrop is absolutely wonderful. Right, now it sounds like the dogs aren't quite around just yet, so Jamie in the meantime has gone to her favorite animal, and it's always a nice drive when I'm sitting with mine and she's with hers.
Tristan, I know the feeling. My ear is also bleeding after the amount of chattering on the radio. I've actually turned mine off completely, so if you can't get hold of me, that's because I've turned it down. So we have arrived at the Juma clan den, and wouldn't you know it, there's just little hyenas everywhere. It's absolutely awesome. June is here with her two little ones, as well as Pretty's two, and Plonk. Plonk, interesting. That's very interesting. Look at this. June dominating one of Pretty's cubs. That's fascinating. I always thought, oh, Ribbon's calling her babies out. I'm just going to move now so that we can see them when they come out, because they are small, although I think June's on her way to ruin our chances there. Craig, how's that? Can you sort of see them? Cool, thank you. So Ribbon's gone in there, and she was making that low moaning contact call. But because Ribbon is so low ranked, she keeps getting bullied by the high ranked individuals, and that applies to both the adults and the cubs as well. I think she's been waiting for her opportunity to feed the little ones, and now June has come to throw her weight around, her quite considerable weight around. Just listen for a sec. Of course, as I said that, they went quiet. So a quick rundown. We have got multiple cubs belonging to multiple mothers. The two little spotty bums over there, that's them. They belong to this female that's standing over the den site with the very pale coat and the sort of pale spots. There's the word juice written on her side. Not everyone can see it, but once you do, you can't unsee it. Oh, it won't make you fall down. But the female in the lying right at the entrance there with the torn ear, that is the female with the youngest set of cubs. So that's Ribbon. And her babies are probably only about 2.5 weeks old now. So, of course, all eyes are on Ribbon once again as she sets out to raise the next little ones of the Juma clan. Oh, this is awesome. You know, I actually find myself living in one of those, that sort of... No, stop it. Stop it. Sorry. Now, Gabrielle wants to know what hyenas smell like, and the answer is they smell pretty bad. I don't mind the smell so much, but most people seem to really dislike them, as little June's cub makes her way towards June. It does depend on what they've been eating. So sometimes they really are so much stinkier, especially when they've been eating something old and decaying. I'm going to go around, and I'm going to turn around. We'll even be able to see Ribbon better if we do that now. So they can stink. They smell a little bit like dirty, wet dog combined with rotten meat. So they can be quite smelly, and a den can be very smelly. But it's a smell that when you have such positive associations with it, as I do, it doesn't bother you terribly. It doesn't bother you at all, actually. So they can be very stinky. But, of course, to each other, they don't smell bad at all. They really don't. I was going to say something else. Oh, yes. We were talking about what a cheetah's fur feels like. I've found in my limited hands-on experience with the different predators, and I've done quite a lot of work with vets and with darting or moving animals or treating animals. I've touched quite a few of the big predators. And all of them are we talk about the coarseness of their fur. Hyenas are much coarser than cheetah, but all of the big predators have very sticky fur. It's got a stickiness to it, and of course it all comes from, it's not like they're shampooed regularly. I'm going to go all the way around here, and you're going to... No, I'm going that way. Just wait. Just wait. Okay. You're good. You're good. Wait till I'm finished moving. No, you're still coming. These creatures are so naughty. Let's see. June, do you mind if I come this way? I'm scared the little ones a bit, but the oldest ones will teach them quite quickly. Where's that one? That's fine. No, Plonk, wait. This is what starts happening at a certain age around the hyena den, is that they start to get so emboldened around our vehicle that they actually cause a little bit of nonsense. Hi, June. Can I come sit here? Thank you. Are you going to be okay there, okay? I can move back a bit if you want. Now, Joy wants to know why some spotted hyena are more fluffy than others. Certainly there's a geographical difference. The ones in the Mara are much, much fluffier than they are here, where I've actually gotten a better idea. I might go all the way around to reposition here. But it's also a genetic thing. So some hyenas are fluffier than others, and some also have paler spots than others. Now, at a certain, it's age-related as well. So the youngsters that we're seeing wandering around will always be fluffier than the adults will be. Oh, trying to sneak in a little bit of extra meal there. So they go through a stage actually where they are so incredibly fluffy. It's interesting that they are almost unidentifiable at around about a year old. So I'm fascinated by the fact that that June went for Corky's cub, because in theory he should be higher ranked than her. Alright, while we just do a little bit of moving around to sort ourselves out, let's go across to Tristan to see whether or not Tlalumba's doing any moving on her own.
Well, little Tlalumba, as you can see, is moving around too. She doesn't want to be outdone by hyenas, and so she's decided she's going to move a little bit. But she's gone kind of behind the car at this stage, which isn't ideal. So hopefully she's going to kind of... Oh, she's found herself something there. Seb, let's try and just turn ourselves a little bit. If we can turn our sort of front, we'll be able to get a much better kind of view of her at the moment. She's kind of right behind us, which is not making life that easy. I'm also blocking another vehicle, so we're going to try and just kind of get past them slowly over that stump, and let's try and kind of move round and then reposition ourselves that we can actually kind of see her. What I actually might do, Seb, let's go all... Actually not sure. Let's try from here for a little bit, and because she looks like she might move, so here at least we can see kind of roughly where she is at the moment and what she's going to get up to. You can see she's sniffing on that bush there. I wonder if Tundi didn't scent mark there, and she's just working out exactly who was there and what's going on. It'll be interesting to kind of pick up whether or not it was... Well, there was another leopard here. You never know. Maybe that male leopard also moved through this area at some point, although I would expect the carcass would have been gone if there was. But you can see she's smelling very intently in that area, and now she's kind of striding her way back. Isn't she looking pretty, though? Very, very cool. So, Vicky, the reason why spots on a leopard is called a rosette is because it's not a solid spot. So if you look at those, it's basically like the spot is like a piece of popcorn that is exploded. And you've got these kind of little black dots around a little golden center, which is difficult to make out because of the color of the light that the people that are trying to view her are using. So she's got these kind of golden centers with these little black spots around. So the spot is almost exploded, and it creates a sort of rose kind of pattern, and so that's where rosette kind of came from. A spot would just be a solid dot like you see on the cheetah. So obviously cheetahs with the Busara with Lauren, you'll notice that theirs is just kind of a solid spot. There's no irregular shape. You're going to go to the toilet now. Lovely. And everyone is watching you. Hey, good pretty girl. Well, at least she prepared her toilet today. She kind of scraped it all open, made a little spot, and then defecated it in it. It feels awkward, though, when you watch her kind of going to the toilet. You feel bad that she's sitting so close as she does it. Now, hopefully she'll cover that back up again. Otherwise, it's going to be quite smelly for us sitting where we are. Although we're not downwind, luckily, Seb. Yes, there we go. Well done, girl. So... also quite a sign that she's not a dominant individual yet, that she's doing that. Dominant individuals wouldn't do that. So, Michael, yes, indeed, I've collected scat for her. And it's actually currently sitting in the fridge waiting for collection. So we've collected for her and Hukumuri lately. So we do have for her, which I know it sounds odd that it's sitting in the fridge. Don't worry, it's in a sealed tube wrapped up in plastic and kind of really is not going to do any sort of damage, but you've got to kind of keep it somewhere where it's at least cool, that it doesn't dry out too much. Right, anyway, we're going to kind of keep staying with her. Let's see if she maybe goes back up the tree. I wouldn't be surprised she takes a wander for water, and while she does that, let's send you back across to Lauren, who I think is now looking at a flower.
Yes, our Queen here is not entirely behaving the same as she did earlier. She's a little bit nervous. She's feeding, quite happily feeding. We've got a slightly better view of her. It's not great. I do apologise. But we can hear some jackals calling off in the distance. and she can obviously hear them too, and she's just becoming a little bit more nervous because night has fallen, and of course there are other animals out here, a huge variety which could potentially come along and try to steal her kills. So her behaviour really has changed. Every so often she'll sit up, she'll scan, she's listening, she's looking. And cheetahs can see at night, of course. They're not blind at night, but they're just said to not see as well as other cats at night. They have great daytime vision. They are also very visual predators, but at night time they're said not to see as well. So she can obviously hear the jackals making their calls, and there's some other noises that we can hear around as well. So she's not quite comfortable. Brian's asking a fantastic question. Do cheetahs hunt at night? I love this question because, Brian, cheetahs are actually said to be diurnal predators, which means that they hunt during the day, which we have witnessed is definitely the case. They definitely do hunt during the day. And even in the hottest temperatures of that, you know, that really hot window between 12 and 3, we have seen cheetahs, especially Busara, tried to hunt then. So cheetahs are said to be primarily diurnal hunters. However, it's not just during the day. We have seen cheetah in the Mara hunt at night also. And we actually spent some time with Mugi, cheetah, oh goodness me, a few weeks ago, who was actually hunting just as the sun went down, and we do believe he caught a very small juvenile young topi. We can't be sure about that, but that seemed to be in the direction of what he was going for. So they do hunt at night, yes, or at least after the sun sort of just goes down. So people think it's just solely during the day, but that's actually not the case, Brian. They do hunt at night as well. So that's a great, great question. But as I mentioned earlier, they've sort of found their specialised niche. So most of the other predators, your lion and leopard, sort of also hunt in that sunrise, dusk, dawn time when it does start to get a little bit darker. But again, as you saw with the Owinos this morning, for everyone who was watching, they also hunt during the day. So there's a lot of sort of, not myths, but there's a lot of ways that people think that actually isn't the case. Cheetahs do also hunt in the dark. They're just not necessarily specialised for that. So I did start to mention earlier that the female cheetahs in particular are normally a lot more solitary. The males do tend to form coalitions, that they avoid conflict as much as they can. They are aware that if they sort of maybe were to engage in any sort of conflict with other predators out here, they could lose. So they're very, very aware of that. But an interesting study I read recently actually compared cheetahs in the Mara with cheetahs in the Serengeti, and it seems that their behaviour is quite different. So apparently, after a successful hunt, a Mara cheetah, if you like, if I can call them that, tends to drag the kill to a safer place and doesn't necessarily open it up straight away. They can actually stay for up to 1 hour just scanning around, obviously catching their breath, but really, really scanning the area to make sure there's nothing going to come along and steal their prey. And then, of course, they will open it up and eat once they're sure that nothing else is around. And look at her right now. Look at her. Listening, scanning. She's really checking her surroundings here. And that's what she keeps doing every so often. Now, I'm also in the dark. I can't really see much ahead of me. As you know, we don't use artificial lights. So I don't really know if anything could potentially be approaching. But just to wrap up that story I was telling you, it is said that in the Serengeti, they're actually completely different. So they tend to just, as soon as they make the kill, just eat it there and then, eat incredibly fast, just swallow it all up, gobble as much as they can, and then just leave before any sort of kleptoparasites arrive. So the behaviour is really different, which is interesting to compare the two areas. And obviously, the smell will actually be in the air for quite some distance, and that is what the other sort of predators will smell. They will smell the kill, and that's what will attract them to the area. And when the rains come, that actually affects how far the smells travel. So once the rains really hit, which I'm a wee bit nervous about, I'm not going to lie to you all, we are going to get heavy rains soon. The cheetahs actually benefit from that because the smell doesn't travel as much. So you can see, I was just about to say she's very alert before she just plonks back down again. But she is alert. Look at her. She's not 100% comfortable here. Cheetahs are just incredible. But for now, I think I've spoken far too much about my fastly becoming favourite animal. Let's send you down to South Africa to Jamie.
It's okay, Lauren. We all know that feeling. The cheetahs are incredible. Hyenas are pretty incredible too. We've just had such an entertaining scene. And although we've currently got one occupied with nibbling away at a branch of a silver cluster leaf, makes me wonder whether or not it's actually teething, which I think it probably is. And I wonder if there's not a little bit of a numbing effect to that high tannin content. Or maybe it just wants to chew anything. So June came around, picked up one of her cubs, and desperately, June's babies are big now. They're 3 months old. They're far too big to be carried around like little babies. But June was definitely going to give it a go. And so one thing that freaks me out about hyenas is the way they pick up their offspring. They pick them up by their necks. Not like the loose skin on the back of the neck. They pick them up by the neck. They put their entire mouth around them, and they lift. And this poor thing sort of dangles with its neck at such a terrible angle. Doesn't seem to bother them, though. I suppose they've got such strong necks. And she decided she wanted to come all the way here to suckle. Now, I think that Ribbon's suckling the little ones, so I haven't forgotten about her, but she's invisible at the moment. And they'll only really come out once they've finished having some food. Okay. Here we go. Let me just stop here. Here's the happy family scene. June decided she wanted to be on this side of the den. Here we go. Nice opportunity for us to have a look at the hierarchy between her two cubs. The one that's sticking with its bottom out in the air is forever after most likely going to be the low-ranked sibling. Every time she tries to suckle, Plonk comes and tries his luck. Michael, we want to know if we can sex June's cubs. It's now getting a bit dark, and we do actually need to switch into infrared. It's now too dark for us to keep filming in this way, so we're going to be doing that shortly. But I haven't had a chance to, honestly. I really need to have a proper look. So for those of you that don't know, hyenas are very difficult to sex, by the way. You'll notice we are now in black and white. Plonk, stop trying to suckle from her. She doesn't have enough milk to go around. So they're very difficult, especially at a young age, and I'm always very hesitant at this age because mistakes get made. And mistakes get made not only by us, but by research organizations as well. Oh, listen to it squealing. Squittering. That begging sound for milk. Oh, June, why did you carry them all the way here then? She can't get comfortable. I wonder if there's not a whole load of biting flies around or something that's irritating her in the sand, perhaps. So no, I haven't yet determined the sex of June's cubs. We'll get there. I'm not too worried about rushing. But I am experiencing this absolutely terrible fear that they're going to up and move. It's bringing me so much happiness it just simply cannot last. Life's taught me anything. They're going to get up and move their den to Little Gowrie and I'll never forgive them. Be devastating. Not again. What a weird way to suckle. Joy in Hong Kong would like to know what the relative advantages are of soft fur versus coarse fur. And I confess to never really having thought about it before, so give me a second. Obviously, the thicker the fur, the more insulation you get. But I suppose that could apply to soft and coarse both. Harder for parasites to get through coarse fur. Also less likely to sort of slide away and allow that animal to be injured. Coarse, thick fur, just by sheer logical thought, must surely be more protective than soft silky fur, or even soft fur. Hence why most animals you'll find that the coarse fur is along the backs, along the sides, and the soft fur is in those more delicate areas, like around the back of the ears or the underneath the arms, the legs, as they're also known. Silky fur, I suppose, doesn't get as tangled, or soft fur. Harder for something to cling to, maybe. Maybe it's harder for grass seeds to attach to than coarse fur. But really, there's nothing out here that has soft fur. Not really. There's nothing out here that we would think of as soft furred. Yes, the fur under a lion or a leopard's legs is quite soft, the belly fur. But it's still not silky soft. It's not as though they go for regular conditioning treatments either. Sweet. Everyone going to sleep now. No, Lycian was saying, sorry Faith, can you share that again? Lycian was saying that if they move their den again, we'll have to ask Kukumuri to send them back here. Is that correct? Chase them back. Spend a bit of too much time near their den. Ah, ask Cook. Ah, I see. Okay, I didn't realize this. So apparently Hukumuri actually led us to this particular den, so we're going to have to ask Hukumuri for directions. I get it. I see now. Ribbons up? Yes, we will. We'll ask Hukumuri for directions. How about that? I hope they just don't move. For a little while, at least. Ribbons up. So let's see if we get a glimpse of the little ones. I think the older cubs might have scared them a little bit. But quite early for her to have such tiny babies at a communal den site. So it must have been a bit of a struggle for her. Come on, little ones. No, don't go lie down in there, Ribbon. Moaning to call the cubs out. Puma would like to know if there's any diseases or parasites that hyenas are vulnerable to. Hyenas are utterly extraordinary when it comes to their immune system. Obviously that applies to wild hyenas and not those in any way in captivity or born in captivity. Come on, Ribbon. Show us your babies. So they are resistant to a number of different diseases that affect plenty of other animals out here. They're largely resistant to TB, to rabies, to any kind of tick-borne parasite, and even parasites that live in their digestive system actually have quite a hard time of it, because of course the stomach of acid of a hyena is so phenomenally powerful that it can dissolve almost everything. So there are very few parasites that are actually able to survive in a hyena's guts. Oh, sorry, head in the way. In a hyena's digestive tract and the sort of their gut system. This does happen though. That doesn't mean they're without parasites. And you do occasionally see worms in a pile of their scat. I'm just aware that there's a hyena cub that's just gone under my car, and I'm just making sure it doesn't come out and bite my toe. Not the ideal. I see you. No, don't bite my toe. I'd be very unimpressed with you. I'm wearing sandals today, and that would be horrible. So yes, they're resistant to almost everything. They are phenomenal. There's a whole... I was going to have a look for a research paper on the immune system of a hyena. Came out quite recently. And it actually made quite a few news articles as well, just with how seriously impressive a hyena's immune system is. Yeah, I see you. I see you. No, that nose is very close to my foot. For those of you that don't know, just by the way, hyena cubs do actually grow out of this behavior. So they stop doing this once they're adults. We're all having an absolutely marvelous afternoon. Lauren, of course, is enjoying the company of Busara the cheetah. Let's go and see whether or not Busara's up and out about on this half-moon night.
I am indeed enjoying the company I have with me right now. It has just been a wonderful evening. Apart from spilling water on myself, and then I've just spilled a whole cup of tomato juice on myself. So I'm really not having a good evening in that respect. I don't know why I keep spilling things. But other than that, being with Busara here is just absolutely incredible. Now, she's stopped feeding. She has, of course, turned the other way from us. And she is indeed very alert to all the noises that are going on around her. And there's quite a lot. I can still hear the jackals off in the distance every so now and then. Haven't heard any hyenas yet. But she is a little bit nervous staying here. And I have seen many of you are actually commenting on how amazing she looks compared to her skinny self quite, well, yesterday even. And yes, you're completely right. It is really good to see her have a meal in her because she was looking very painfully thin. And of course, cheetahs are naturally thin anyway, but it was looking a bit painfully thin, wasn't it? So it is much better to see her looking like this. And I don't believe she's actually finished. I think she will keep feeding a little bit longer, as much as she can, as much as her belly can take. So I do apologise that she's facing the other way, but for now we're going to send you back down to another princess of mine, Tlalamba.
Indeed, little Tlalamba has now just arrived at a water point, as we thought she would do, much like what she did last night. Is after the sunset, off she went to go and have a nice long drink, and she's really kind of lapping it up. She's been here for probably a good 3-4 minutes already, drinking, and she seems as though she's very thirsty. So we had the right idea earlier that she might be near water. It's just really nice that it's turned out that she eventually did come to water and we did actually see her. So very, very pleasant. Now you'll see in our flare that she looks very different than what she does in the infrared. Obviously there's people in the sighting, they don't have the ability to have thermal cameras and infrareds, and so you would have seen a light shining on her. But the flare is really quite something. It's quite special how we're able to see this color kind of standing out, and you can see how on the left side of the path, which is where the water and the grass is, you see how much cooler it is. So it's dark and black, and that's what I was saying to you earlier, is that they often lie in those grassy areas because of the moisture and the thickness of that grass. It's a lot colder, and that is a lot better for her to be able to kind of be to stay nice and cool. Whereas on the right side, you see it's a lot hotter and a lot more orange, and then her body obviously is very hot as well. Now she's going to give herself a little bit of a groom, and she's going to walk right past us, which is epic. So we should have a really kind of good view of where she is at the moment and her kind of coming past. So you can see back on IR, there are a few lights on her, a little scratch. Hello, my girl, do you have enough space there? Yeah, she has enough space. There's more than enough space for her to walk past. She doesn't really worry about us these days. She's become so relaxed in comparison to what she was a few months ago. And you can see she's behind Seb's seat. Seb, she was saying hello. Did you say hello back?
Oh, yeah.
Can't be rude. You have to say hello back to her. Otherwise, she's not going to be our friend anymore. Right, let's turn around quickly, and then we can follow her back to her kill. She popped her head up as though she heard something. So I wonder if potentially there isn't maybe a hyena or something that's arrived at her carcass there. And the way that she kind of popped her head up was almost like she heard something, and she stopped drinking immediately and then started moving in that direction. So I'm quite interested to see what actually maybe is in that area. Now, of course, she's going to take the shortcut, which is very, very dense and very thick. So, not sure if I'm going to follow her through there. It was tricky enough when we had a bit of light. Now it's gotten quite dark. I think we're just going to leave her to go through, and we're going to slowly putter our way along back towards where the carcass is, and we should get her then kind of going back that way. It's a bit of a gamble because it might take her a while to get there. Let's have a look. Let's see. Let's go slowly back to the kill. Maybe there's something else at the kill that we can look at in the meantime. While she goes, she takes a path that runs to the right of this one, and that takes her straight there, but kind of is a little bit roundabout, and it's quite dense and thick and lots of trees and stumps, and like I say, when you've got a bit of light, it's easy enough, but when you've got no light, it's quite tricky to negotiate. So we'll rather head this way. Right. I'm going to head back to the carcass. We're going to wait for her there. Hope that she arrives back just now. In the meantime, though, back to Jamie and her favorite little ones as they cause chaos at the den.
Look, 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 look. Look who's making an appearance. One of Ribbon's tiny little babies. Looking at those ears, I'd actually put it at about 3 weeks old. Maybe a bit older. I'm just thinking back to Waffles' cubs when they were about 5 weeks old, and they had very prominent ears. So we're somewhere in between there. Probably about 3 weeks or so. Oh, cute. Oh, Ribbon, you're going to kick it. You're going to kick it back in. Don't do that, please. No, 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 don't go. You just got here. Come on, you can do it. Yes, that's a piece of grass. Oh dear, something scary. But Mom's not frightened. Her baby will learn from her what's the threat and what isn't. Wobbly, wobbly still. Baby spotted hyenas take quite a long time for their back ends to develop properly, so they tend to fall down quite a lot. No, Ribbon, you're going to sit on it. Oh, Ribbon! She just casually kicked it back in. Now, Ravinda wants to know about the inside of the den and whether or not hyenas dig out the inside of the termite mounds for their comfort. And the answer to that is not the adults, no. So what they'll do is they'll take over an existing den site from where warthogs or aardvark have burrowed into a termite mound. It's usually started by an aardvark and then completed by a warthog or a porcupine, something like that. Oh, I can just see ears coming up. I can also just feel the car being chewed, so I must keep remembering to check my feet. I can feel you doing that. It's naughty. Stop whatever you're doing. Not you, little one. Sorry. Hey, stop it. Hey, cut it out. What are you chewing? It sounds bad. Wait, hold on. No, I just had to finish off that question. So what does happen is that the little cubs, the little hyena cubs, actually do a little bit of the excavating themselves. And they create little shelves for themselves. Sometimes they join up tunnels. They're quite good, actually, at digging at quite a young age. So while the adults don't excavate and cannot fit into the holes in the den in certain places, the hyena cubs can. Now, Dos Santos wants to know if the hyenas are actually biting my toe, and the answer is no. I'm not letting them anywhere near getting away with that. That's a bit too far. That's really not acceptable. So no, I won't let them get away with that. They do grow out of the curious behavior around the cars. The thing is that these little babies are so highly intelligent, and the way that they learn and explore is with their mouths, because, I mean, they don't have anything else. They're not like toddlers will grab everything and stick everything in their mouths. Well, hyena cubs can't grab everything, but they do stick everything in their mouths. Stop it. It's my tire. Okay, I think Ribbon's settled back, so we'll watch what the rest of them are up to. Pretty's having a bit of a... Now she's going to pick it up again. June, that's no way to treat a baby. You clearly didn't go to any of those parenting classes or prenatal classes. Right, she's had it. She's off. She's done. Someone's going to have to teach June that it's not really the done thing to pull your youngsters around by their legs. June's gone to investigate Ribbon now. There's the babies whining. I wish I understood exactly what the hierarchy was here. I mean, it's clear now that Ribbon considers herself low-ranked, but it wasn't always that way. I wish I knew exactly what had gone on to cause this incredible drop in rank. She's never been particularly high-ranked except up until last year when Madam disappeared. But no, that's not true, actually, because I remember footage of when June was little and Ribbon came barreling in, looking so pleased with herself. I don't know. Obviously, Ribbon got ahead of herself and got pushed right back down the hierarchy. Stop it! Hey! Not that much damage they could do to the tires, surely. June's wandered off. Ribbon is still here, so I still feel comfortable being at the den. But we're just going to make sure that we don't outstay our welcome. While we wait it out, Lauren's been doing the same in the Mara. Let's go and find out what Busara's up to.
I'm so jealous of Jamie right now. I cannot wait to get back to that Juma clan zen. And I was actually just thinking, you know, what my hyena song is. And I can't actually think what it could be. If you remember, I do have a lion song, and that is, of course, Smelly Cat. I did sing that live one time. I'm sure you all haven't forgiven me for that. And I've just figured out my cheetah song. Patrick did rap live on air, so are you ready for my cheetah song? This is actually dedicated to Emma. So here you go. Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur. Happy kitty, sleepy kitty, purr, purr, purr. That's my cheetah song, yay! So I hope Emma is more than happy that I just sang that for her. And I will figure out my hyena song eventually. Oh, yay, I did it. So got my lion song, my cheetah song. There we go. Anyway, actually, to be serious, talking of vocal sounds, it's actually amazing that cheetahs are actually considered not to be one of the greater cats that we have around, because of the sounds, and they can't actually roar like other cats can. So, you know, when you hear that rumbling roaring of a lion that sort of goes right through you, or even the sawing of the likes of Tingana, it really, really vibrates through every muscle in you, and I'm sure you feel like that watching from home as well. But cheetahs actually can't do that. They can't roar. They do make sounds though, please do not get me wrong. They do make lots of sound, but it's not roaring. And this is because they're actually missing a special bone in their throat, if you like, called the hyoid bone. It's a two-piece bone. It's in the shape of a horseshoe, and it sort of sits midway on the neck, below the chin area. And this is what assists the other animals in roaring. And that is what a cheetah actually doesn't have. Now, I could be wrong, but I think it's also called the lingual bone. That's a little bit easier than saying hyoid. So because they can't do this sort of vocalization that the other cats can do, they sort of get a reputation for not being one of the greater cats. But of course they are. They are great. They are fabulous. But they're just considered a little bit lesser for that reason. So I feel you, Busara. I just sang in front of everyone and probably made a fool of myself. So I feel you when the vocal cords are not up to scratch. But I have heard cheetahs make noise. It's just not as loud as a lion. James is asking a good question. Have I seen Busara do any sort of scent marking yet? No, I haven't. I have obviously been following her the past few days, and she seems to just be absolutely, for the past few days, on the search for food. So cheetahs are not said to be territorial, but obviously when they come into estrus, they will have to advertise that in some manner to attract a male. And the females have got to let the males know they're ready, I guess, or how else is she going to find a mate? So I haven't seen any signs of anything other than hunger and really, really looking for food. But wouldn't that just be fabulous if she was to come into estrus soon and really, really show it? And obviously mate with a male or many males, because female cheetahs are promiscuous like other cats. And yeah, we would have little cubs on the way soon. That would just be adorable. I do believe there is a cheetah called Rani who's in an area that we can't quite access, and she does have cubs at the moment around her den. But wouldn't it just be fabulous if Busara here eventually had cubs and her den was somewhere close to us that we were actually able to access? So James, I hope that sort of answers your question. I haven't seen any signs of anything. But if she was to come into estrus soon, that would just be fabulous. Now, you have to think like the mind of the animal. So if you are a lone cheetah, a solitary female out here, it's probably maybe not that easy to necessarily come across the males. Where do you find the males? Where are the males? So again, you've got to sort of advertise it in some way. So I do think that's what it is you were referring to, James. And many people have actually asked about the 5 musketeers. The Fast Five, if you like, and apparently they are still going strong as a fivesome, and that is on my wish list to actually see these boys, but they are unfortunately away across the river. But yeah, that is a strong coalition of males. So in order to attract any male's attention, Miss Busara here would have to advertise it of some sort. Just look at that beauty. How could any boy decline that? Crafty's asking quite an interesting question. Would jackals scare Busara off her kill now? Honestly, to be completely honest with you all, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, jackals are very, very small, especially in comparison to her, and in comparison to the likes of hyenas. They're tiny. But I mean, if there was a group of them all coming at her, there is a potential that she could actually be scared away. She seems quite nervous. Just look at this behaviour. But I am really honestly not sure exactly what she would do. Maybe if it was just one jackal, she could probably, look at that full belly. She could probably handle it. But say it was maybe 3 or 4 jackals, I'm not sure if she would get quite nervous and run away. But that is a really interesting question, and as much as I wouldn't want to see that happen, it would be actually really interesting to see the dynamics of the interaction between those two animals. Fascinating. Now, we keep hearing them and we keep scanning around, but I haven't seen any single jackal approach yet. Now, jackals are obviously very brave. We've had fantastic sightings with them recently, but I haven't seen them approach a cat myself. So I'm really not sure how either of those animals would interact with one another, to be honest. And obviously we've stayed with Busara quite a long time because it's just incredible to get to spend this time with her, especially when she's feeding. But the night is still young, and I do wonder exactly what is going to happen to this kill and Busara herself as the night goes on. We, of course, will have to leave her soon, sadly, but I do wonder exactly how this night will go down. Many of the animals out here do scavenge from one another. Many of them. It's not even just the ones that you would automatically think of. So once they get scent, she obviously made the kill in the early hours of the afternoon, so once they get a scent of a sort of fresh kill, many, many other animals will be attracted to it. So who knows what's going to happen. I'm sure Basara will be safe, but she indeed might lose the rest of her kill. That is always a possibility, but hopefully she can hold on to it a little bit longer and continue feeding. Although how she is managing to get any more food in that belly of hers, I really have no idea. It looks incredibly full right now. It is bulging. However, that is really, really good news, of course. And as for her injury, I think many people are also asking about that. I'm sure once she continues to keep feeding and once she continues to just be healthy and, you know, get all the nutrition from her diet, it will eventually heal. It could be possible that the injury is actually nothing and it really wasn't harming her at all. That was indeed speculation, but there definitely is a wound there. So hopefully our queen cheetah here is definitely on the mend. So for now, let's go back down to the place that I am indeed missing with all my heart, the hyena den.
Don't worry, Lauren, you'll be back, and then you'll get to be reunited with the members of the Juma clan once again. Things are starting to calm down a little bit. Most of the older cubs seem to have curled up at the other entrance to the den, and I think they're planning on waiting it out, waiting for Mum to return. Corky and Pretty are out there somewhere. And then we've got June's two cubs nipping at each other. June's actually got up and left. She's moved away. I think she's left the den to go off in search of food for the night, but these two are still thoroughly busy. Now, what we would usually do is, if all of the adults had left, we would immediately leave the den site, because what happens is that the cubs become emboldened by our presence here, and they become curious, and they're often out of the entrance and the safety of the den when they shouldn't be. So if there's no adults here, then we will move away. But Ribbon is still around, so I'm happy for us to stay here for now. I'll just keep checking every now and again to make sure that a hyena's not about to take my toe. What'd you smell? Sniff, 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 sniff. Something's interesting. Something's different. Oof. No? Done. Or perhaps you going up to see a new clan member? No. Alright. You're going to sit it out patiently, see what the hyenas get up to in the last few moments of the sunset safari. Tristan's been doing the same with Tlalamba. Perhaps he has an update.
Well, unfortunately, little Tlalamba left us. I don't know where she went. We sat at the kill waiting patiently, and she just didn't arrive. So, and there was no hyena there was no other leopard. So I don't know if she just found a nice long grass spot and lay down, but we couldn't find her again, and so we decided just to do a quick turn kind of down towards the Mulwati in case Tundi is still hanging around. Obviously, so I thought maybe it would be a good idea to quickly come check. It's males, so you never know they're going to make an appearance. So I thought of maybe just quickly going past Twin Dams just to see if maybe that male is around, although the male tracks apparently were going north from Mamba, so maybe Chela is actually a better idea. Let's rather go to that area and go and check there. So that's why we unfortunately left there, is because I just didn't know where she went. I should have followed her. Hindsight, it's a rookie error in summer. You should follow the path that they take, because they often do lie down somewhere. It's okay. We had a really nice sighting anyway, and you know, it's not like it's been a quiet drive in many respects. There's been a little bit of something for everyone. We've done tortoises and dung beetles and all kinds of things, as well as our characters. So hopefully everyone's enjoyed it and will forgive us for losing Tlalamba at the last minute. But we also got spoiled because we've seen her yesterday morning and this evening. I mean, yesterday evening and this morning and this evening. So it's been 4 drives in a row that we've had her, which is nice. Seb, you lost something.
No, it's shooting for my jacket, but I'm
okay. So
Seb
says it's getting a little chilly, so he's hoping that he could find his jacket so he could wrap himself up because he doesn't want to get cold. All right, so while Seb gets his jacket out so that he can stay nice and warm, let's send you up to the Mara with Lauren, who's still with Basara.
Whew, she was lying down, but she sat up just... Sorry, spoke too soon. There you go. I was going to say she sat up just for the end of the show to say goodnight to you all. But of course she has gone flat again, which is not ideal. But hopefully she'll pop her head back once more so we can see that beautiful face of hers before we do have to end what has been an incredible sunset drive. I'm going to try my hardest to follow this female as much as I can to try and get a little bit more information about her. We're learning a lot, but of course there's questions that we don't have answers to, even the one that we just answered about estrus. So hopefully the more time we spend with this beautiful cheetah, the sort of more information we can actually get on her and her whereabouts. My main question at the moment that I want to sort of get an answer to is where she is going to sort of settle. Is she just going to be nomadic and really keep wandering about, or is she going to stay in the triangle a little bit longer? Of course, I definitely hope she did. She has crossed over from the riverside, and apparently this is her first time in the triangle. So I'm really, really hoping that she does stay here for a little bit longer, of course, because I definitely don't want to lose sight of this cheetah. And there has actually been reports of other cheetahs around, male ones in particular. So I'm going to take it upon myself to start looking for all these cheetahs and learn as much about them as I possibly can, because as I've mentioned, I'm slowly falling in love with these cats, and I think they're just fabulous. And it's a shame that we haven't been able to spend as much time with them in the past, but obviously we have now. So it's a completely ideal situation that Busara is here. And sadly, it is coming to that time of night. Oh, come on, Busara, pop your head up one last time. Come on, say goodnight. Possibly not. It is came to that time of night where we do have to say goodnight to you all, but it's been a fabulous drive, and please do join us tomorrow for the sunrise safari. Thank you and good night.